welcome everyone to day 2 of the Overwatch World Cup 2017 live from BlizzCon. I'm Golden Boy, your host for this weekend, and what a weekend it has been so far. Games that just left you breathless from yesterday, but we are not done yet, as we have to crown a champion, and today we will do just that. I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues here on the desk. We have the one and only Jamerson. How you feeling, buddy?
Doing fantastic. We had some great games like you had mentioned. Canada versus Australia, one of the sleeper games that we really didn't expect to, go the limit, but it went all 5 games and it was amazing.
Yeah, but all eyes, though, were on that South Korea-USA game. And joining us is the man who called that game, the one and only ZP. My friend, how you feeling?
I'm feeling exhausted, but still very, very good. That was one of the best series of Overwatch I've ever had the privilege of casting, and today I get to relax a little bit, spend some time on the desk, and also hang out with 2 of my favorite people, and anything to spend some time with you, Golden Boy.
Oh, you're so nice. You just stop it. Oh, stop it. But in any case, guys, we want to get you all up to date on what has transpired here at the Overwatch World Cup playoffs. Sweden versus the United Kingdom ended in 3-0. Canada, Australia had a barn burner at 3-2. France and China at 3-1. And then that South Korea-United States game, if you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a favor. Go watch some quality Overwatch. That ended with a 4-2 score line. If you're wondering why, watch the game. You'll find out. That being said, though, our matches today, first match of the day as a matter, would be Sweden versus Canada, and then France versus South Korea. 2 very, very good matches that we have lined up here. I couldn't be more ecstatic for it. But as I said, the first matchup of the day will be Sweden facing off against Canada. And ZP, I gotta ask you a question here, buddy. This Swedish roster, they're looking pretty deadly.
Absolutely, and this is where experience is key. When you look at the Sweden core, you're looking at a bunch of veterans for Overwatch where they've been through the paces, they've played different heroes over time, and you saw that throughout the entire roster with flexing to this brand new meta. Key point, Cyan, who is really known for his Ana play, but used to play a lot of Mercy way back in the day, and brought those skills to bear in the quarterfinal yesterday, where his experience on Mercy was very key to Sweden able to come out over the top.
Yeah, and that it's funny enough you mentioned Chips, because he says he's a Mercy main and actually walking out now. The Mercy main himself leading the charge for Sweden. It's Cyan. This roster, though, a lot of people aren't really, I guess they're kind of selling them short early on here, but now we're starting to see that even themselves, they're very, very confident. Cyan, Zebasai, Manitin, Swoosh, Tavik, and the young gun himself, Snillo. James, any thoughts on this roster?
One of the scary things is that it was one of the quicker matches that we had yesterday, so we didn't get to see all the forms of Team Sweden here. There's so many things that they can still pull out of their back pocket that they can surprise us with. So I want to look forward to Canada just pushing them to the limit so we can see more of them.
Speaking of Canada, we might as well jump into that one. ZP brought up an interesting point about Chips' play on Mercy. Joe Meister not having the best of times on Mercy yesterday. You saw him get picked early on quite a few times. Is there some, uncomfortable gameplay that you're seeing there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something that we saw coming out from even Team South Korea. Ryu Jae-hong or Toby having to go over to that Mercy role himself. And it's a little bit of an uncomfortable shift, right? Primarily as Joe Meister, you've been playing Lucio for the better part of a year and a half now. And now you're moving over to Mercy, where it's a completely different dynamic. You're not as able to stay in the fights, but you're so fragile. You have to somehow keep yourself safe by using Guardian Angel instead of having more disengaged tools that Lucio normally has.
Yeah, and then the other thing, and we just saw him pop up on screen just a tad, was XQC actually having a pretty good event, CP.
Absolutely, and XQC, he's not only a great tank player, he's the emotional heart of this Canadian team, and also the front runner for the Teemo MVP, as far as we know.
Ain't that the truth? There they are, as Canada makes their way over to the stage. And now this roster, this is what's so interesting about this team is that you look at it and you see so many weapons. I mean, you have agilities, you have Surefour, right? You have one of the better supports despite his recent issues, in Joe Meister and also Rolf. But then the ones that really, the one player that pops out for me is Mangachu, because Mangachu came into this team as the off-tank player, having to play D.Va. and he's kind of defaulted to a third DPS because he's so good as Pharah.
Yeah, the nice thing is that with this composition, with this roster, you can actually really rely upon Mangachu. You can build around him if you want to. They can go for, maybe if we go to King's Row, put him on a Hanzo and then put either Surefour or Agilities onto Zarya and really come up with a composition that's very easy to execute with. Yesterday, they relied heavily upon both Surefour and Agilities just to come up with clutch plays so they can continue on in most of these maps. So I want to see them just go back to basics and make it easy for their path to victory.
All right, well then in that case, so ZP, you're Sweden in this situation. You saw Canada play yesterday. Surely you have a game plan. What do you think that game plan is?
There's two parts of their game plan that I think they should execute on. One is that you target Joe Meister. Joe Meister is not comfortable on Mercy as far as we've seen. And if they put him on that hero, I think you isolate him. I think you put him under pressure and you go, can you get away from this? The second point is that you isolate XQC. XQC oftentimes is the emotional leader of the team. He's a guy getting them into it with calls. But more than that, if they're running a single tank setup with him because they're running Mangachu on the Pharah, if you take down XQC early on, Canada isn't going to be able to really exert any control over the fight. So I think if they target those two players, Sweden will have a lot of success here today.
But now you're Canada, you know that Sweden is going to look to target a player like XQC, make some mistakes, player like Mangachu. How do you then look to get the victory if you're Canada?
Well, that's also why I want to see them revert back to maybe a triple tank style, right? We got to see what XQC can do when there's a Diva in play to keep him a bit more safe on that Winston. He comes up huge. Go ahead and put a Zarya in there. Keep that, have someone on a Diva also. Just support him more and allow him to get into the backline, stay in the backline, and just destroy all the squishies on the side of Sweden.
All right, well, guys, I know it is early. Trust me, because I had to wake up at like 6 o'clock, so it's very early, but let's just have some fun with this. Let's make some noise. Let's watch some Overwatch. It's time to get into our first match of the day. It's going to be Sweden facing off against Canada, and let's send it over to your commentary duo, OWWC.
From the frozen tundras in the north, it's both Canada and Sweden emerging, but there can only be one king, Matt. If anything from pop culture has taught us so far, how much have we really seen from Sweden, though? Because yesterday from them, it seemed like very much a straightforward affair.
Their match seemed really easy for them yesterday. I don't think we really learned a lot about this team. Obviously, Snillo coming in, taking Reinforce's spot. The team makes a little bit more sense now, like on paper, right? Because Swoosh, you know, he's the main tank. For Misfits, you have Manitin there as well, so they can keep that tank duo up front. Now you just slot Snillo in playing the Tracer. I think in this series, if you look at Canada, on their side, I think XQC has to be huge for them. I think when they go to that solo tank lineup, he really needs to just preserve his life as much as possible.
Right, and it's a very tough job right now
Yes.
in the way that the game's being played in the current meta in Overwatch. We spoke to XQC a couple days ago, and he said, honestly, I'm not really, feeling this is the easiest way for me to play. I like to jump in, I like to get aggressive, I like to be accompanied by a dive, but now I'm kind of jumping in and then 180ing in midair and being forced to get back out of combat because I know if I hit the ground, I'm going to get blown up instantly.
Yeah, he's kind of using the jump to bait a little bit, like kind of diving in a little and then making that 180 and kind of going back towards his team, putting the bubble down and then playing a little bit defensive, kind of in and out of the bubble, trying to stay alive as long as possible on the Winston. I think with him in this series, I think we may see more tanks than just the Winston. I think we'll see the Orisa again. Thought he got good yesterday on Nepal. I think we'll see, obviously, Reinhardt as well.
Yeah, if we get to Junkertown, we've seen a lot of Orisa. Reinhardt's also been a pick there. We've actually seen, Canada go for a Reinhardt and Orisa. We've seen Mangachu get involved in that one, playing that Orisa. So there's a lot of flexibility for this team. And when you think of Mangachu as a player, you don't often think of him as the second tank for this team because of how prolific his Pharah play has been so far. But if needs must, we have seen him on the Diva, and we have seen him on that Orisa.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the Diva by default for this team. Surefour, he can play a very good Zarya. But then you lose what he brings you on DPS. I mean, he was actually phenomenal in the final 3 games of the Australia-Canada series yesterday. And I think he's going to need to go huge today because you have Tavik on the other side, one of the best players in the world.
Right, we can talk a little bit more about Sweden now.
Yeah.
Obviously, the young gun in Snillo. I mean, his father's here to watch him.
Yeah.
And, obviously, he's not just here to support his son. He's also his illegal guardian because he is underage. So, obviously, for him, this has been a huge coming of age, as it were, because his last LAN and his first LAN was the Contenders Finals in Burbank, and it was tough for him. He got to play one series. Now he gets a second shot, of course, not only with a great performance yesterday. There was a stat that came up after the first game. It was like Snillo had 1,400 damage from pulse bombs in the first map, whereas Mikey was only able to get about 200. So
he was great yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, and that stat might not tell you the whole story, but it definitely says that he was getting more pulse bombs or using them at least more effectively. That's a big statement for such a young player.
And I think a lot of people were worried as a young player. Maybe he just won't show up with the crowd and everybody getting excited, hyped for these matches. You're worried, how is he going to handle that pressure? And he played quite well yesterday.
Nepal is going to be coming up first here. It's a map where we have seen Orisa on before, especially Sanctum. An opportunity there, obviously, to try and move your opponents around the map. Use that halt ability to get them into the pit. So that's definitely something we're going to be looking at in detail. We don't know too much about whether Sweden are going to go for that. We know that Manitin loves playing that Roadhog, much the same way that we saw Smex pick it up yesterday. ZP said Smex is one of the most prolific Roadhogs around the world. Manitin is an incredible flex tank. Expect to see him, go the Roadhog, maybe even Orisa mix that stuff in.
Well, Roadhog comes into play. You love it for Canada as well, because Agilities can play a very good Roadhog. That takes the pressure off of Mangachu having to play the second tank, because now he can play something like a Pharah, like a Junkrat, and you can have XQC play something like the Rhine or the Orisa. So makes a lot of sense for Canada as well.
Looking at our initial lineups here, you can see that Junkrat's definitely going to be a contested pick here between these two. Tvik has shown us what he can do on that pick yesterday, and we do know that Canada's Mangachu is that Swiss Army knife of this team. It's a term we use so often, Matt, especially in Overwatch, but Mangachu embodies what a flex player has to do. So in the words of XQC, pop champagne, my doggies, let's get it on Overwatch Arena, make some noise as we kick off our first semi-final here. Sweden in the blue, Canada in the white.
We'll see who can get the opening pickoffs here. You're really looking at the Junkrat players put a lot of damage down. The benefit for Canada, they have the shield of the Orisa. For Sweden, all you have is that Winston bubble to protect you from those Junkrat grenades coming on in.
You can see that Manitin's just trying to brave most of this damage to come through. That shield drops and Zebasai finds a pick almost instantly. But the reses, of course, are forthcoming. Both Junkrats are put back on their feet. That extra damage is going to be required for both of these teams in this war of attrition. Manitin tries to pull Agilities off the edge, but he just settles for picking him off with the scrap gun regardless.
Yeah, and you have all that extra damage that's coming in from Surefour on the 76. It's going to allow for Canada to take the point. And right there, you're relying on Snillo to get to the back lines, get a pick off. As long as Canada stayed alive, it was going to allow Surefour, once both Junkrats were out of the equation and the Winston was out of the equation, for Sweden to just lay down a ton of damage on the 76.
Yeah. Big play from him on the backside of the fight. We were watching Manitin at the time, but Surefour in the background obviously doing a heck of a lot of work on that Soldier 76. And that's a pick that really pressures a Junkrat down in this particular matchup. It's hard for Junkrat to really deal with 76 at length, especially if he's got him lined up. The Helix Rocket for extra damage. Speaking of extra damage though, the Riptide from Mangachu here sends it up on high. Again, a bit of a scouting attempt, perhaps even to zone somewhat. It's unlikely you better get too close. He doesn't quite get the pick up, but that's a heck of a lot of damage on towards Manitin. He quickly takes a breather. He's back to full, but now Mangachu is ready to fight normally. Some direct fire through from him, but a transcendence for Sweden now just to keep them topped up. It's going to be responded on the side of Canada.
Yeah, Sweden's going to use both of their support ults here. Tvik now has his Riptire. He's going to call it in, see if he's able to get anybody with it. It'll be Sweden taking the point from Canada. Canada still in this fight though. You're going to get your tank back into the equation once the Riptire goes off. Manitin trying to stay alive here on the point. Joe Meister with the Mercy Res is coming on through.
Yeah, quickly jumps in, opts not to heal up Mangachu in favor of getting that res on towards Agilities, and seems to have done the job. He gets the hook on towards Chips, so that Mercy presence will be nullified in this fight for Sweden. Again, sometimes it comes down to whose Mercy is still alive. Regardless of that Resurrect cooldown, the healing is still so impactful. You can see the final stages of Joe Meister's Valkyrie timing out now. He, of course, used it to turn that fight on a dime.
Yeah, and Mangachu is going to get very close to another Riptire here for Canada. You're going to have Rolf build up towards that Transcendence, and you have XQC with his ultimate. So once you see the fight start, that Orisa ult's going to be huge as Mangachu gets one. Trying to just locate Snillo here. He's going to force him to recall it. You see Agility's getting better. He's going to recall right into the trap. Now it's going to be the tire coming out from Mangachu again.
Try some parkour here as well. Off the walls, that's a beautiful Riptire. Zebasai and Chips, they thought they were safe in the back line, but you can't run, you can't hide. It's Mangachu's wild ride.
He is so sick on the heroes, like the Junkrat, like the Pharah. You see Canada, they push all on through into the choke. They have the Transcendence, going to be able to sustain on through this. And Mangachu has had a fantastic first point as Canada will take it.
The gauntlet is slowly removed and slapped across the face of Sweden, and Canada have made a statement to open this one up. Now Orisa, the Junkrat presence there. Roadhog obviously was an endangered species across that map. Both Agilities and Manitin were scrabbling to try and keep themselves up, but again, the judicious use of those Riptires, especially from the Canadian side, helped him get the edge in a lot of those fights. But I dare say, Matt, as we head on towards our next stage, we'll see a change up in composition.
Yeah, and I think when you look at just some of the numbers here coming out of our first point, Mangachu for Canada was huge, right? 28% of the overall team damage coming from Mangachu. On the other side, you're looking at Snillo on the Tracer, right? Really able to burst players down, only 11% of the team damage. So not really doing much in terms of limbs and final blows as well. So they did a good job of, whether it was Mangachu, agilities on the Roadhog, and then Surefour on the 76, really preventing Snillo to do a lot of damage.
We'll be heading in just a few moments here. Looks like the map will be Shrine. You can see the players already tapping away. I'm surprised that keyboard doesn't distract Surefour, but I guess he's probably used to it with all the screaming fans in the background. Trying to go for that salt and pepper. Look a little bit early on in life for that one, but still makes it work. Maybe a future Clooney, but now we're going to be into Shrine here. And again, it's going to be Sweden taking most of the damage early on. They've already forced that res.
And it's going to be Canada taking the point here as Joe Meister's going to bring agilities back into the fight. And one thing, I was kind of wondering coming into this series is, primarily when we've seen Swoosh play tank, right now the main tank for Misfits playing tank here for Team Sweden, we've seen him exclusively on the Winston. We were wondering during contenders, will he bring out the Rhine? They pretty much ran dive all the way through contenders. And here we've seen him pretty much stay on this Winston, and I think Canada's doing a decent job exploiting that.
Is Ryan in his wheelhouse? It's a big question. Maybe not one we'll see answered on this map, but perhaps later in the series. This is Rook, by the way. Goes in, gets 2 kills in the back of that fight. Zebasai didn't know what hit him there. Definitely no balls to the wall in that case. Those were connecting with their targets perfectly now. Canada have a chance to set up here again. It's a shield, and it's going to be a trap there, so making sure it's going to be very costly for Sweden to get up close to them. Rez is already out at the start of the fight. Snillo and Surefour are put back on their feet. Transcendence from Rolf now as he tries to join the rest of his team to keep them healed up. Chips, that's not a position you want to be in. What a combo as well. The Holt pulling Sweden together, and Mangachu throwing in the mine just to blow them right on up.
Yeah, it'll be both support ults coming out from Canada.
Oh, behave, Mangachu! Behave!
Canada's feeling themselves, and you talked a little bit about XQC being the emotional leader for this team. When they get that reverse sweep yesterday, those guys were so hyped up, ready for this match against Sweden. And I think coming out of this first map, if they're able to take it, it's going to be a big win for Canada as they move on.
So you can see the flanking play being set up here for Sweden. Snillo's going to go all the way back around. Vic wants to try and get around these shields to get a good tack visor off. Surefour now realizes that's happening, but it's too late. He couldn't respond. Mangachu and Surefour go down. Joe as well, that 3 Vic on that tactical visor. XQC desperately tries to put a shield down amidst the chaos, but it's not enough to protect his team, and he's just going to take a long walk off the short ledge and be done with it for this time.
Coming into the next fight, though, Canada will have a rip tire, and they'll have their tack visor. We can take a look. The tack visor from Tvik gets up to the high ground, gets behind enemy lines, has free reign on the players of Canada.
What do you do? That shield, I mean,
Nothing
it's not,
you can do.
It's unidirectional. That's the thing. It's not a Winston bubble. So Orissa's shield only gives you protection, obviously, from that side. You need to be very careful the way you place it. It's hard to do with flanks. Speaking of which, there might just be another one. The Riptire is being sent forward. The explosive envoy from Canada doesn't quite find his mark. Not exactly the diplomacy he was looking for. Now, Canada will make their way up around that left side. Again, the Holt pulls everyone in, and he gets that remote mine. Nice kills from Surefour now going for that tactical visor. Look at that accuracy, Matt.
I think if you're Canada, if you get Chips to use the Valkyrie, so there's Chips using the Valkyrie, he's going to bring Snillo and Zebasai back into the fight. If you win this for Canada, it's great. They're going to actually use their Transcendence. They're going to invest that because Joe Meister is so close to his own Valkyrie. You bring 2 more players back into the fight if need be, and then you're already at 88% if you're Canada. You close this one out.
Agilities with the whole hog. He's going to use it now. You can see him in the wireframe off towards the right-hand side. He dealt with Tvik, and looks like he's happy enough with just the 1 kill. Agilities is feeling it, and so are we. The hook doesn't quite connect, but he's a big presence on the point. Big, meaty presence, in fact. Doesn't want to go for the heal just yet. Now the self-destruct place down in front of him. The res is coming through thick and fast. Joe Meister manages to get up his support and his Junkrat player, but Agilities has got so much space to do work here. If you leave him unchecked, he's going to take it to shreds, and now we're going to be in overtime here. Sweden nowhere to be seen over on the point here, and Canada plant the flag. The Maple Leafs start strong.
Surefour, towards the end of the last night, he was starting to heat up. He was starting to play well. He shows up in a big way for Canada. In the first map, they get themselves a win. I think, though, you look at Canada, and when they can have Mangachu run something like a Pharah or a Junkrat, and then you put agilities on the Roadhog, and you have XQC take up the Orisa or the Winston, they look very scary.
I mean, Tvik's doing, 40% of his team's hero damage right now. Huge play from him, but so far it's not enough. Canada are looking very, very good. Quick break, ladies and gentlemen. Catch your breath. On the other side of this break, we'll have map number 2.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
From being very slow starters in the series yesterday against Australia, Canada looked to be carrying the momentum through from day one. The first map been a big success for them, especially when they struggled on this one previously yesterday. Sweden now look to be the ponderous ones, the ones that are taking a little bit of a while to get into gear. Kings Row, Matt, will be the second map, and let's hope this is where they make it a series.
Yeah, but Sweden needs to get back and playing well, because this is a Canada team like we talked about, where if they start to heat up, they are very emotional guys. They can really spiral this series in their favor, find themselves in the gold medal match.
One step away. It's crazy, right? This side of the bracket's been very interesting. Obviously, neither of these two teams have had to deal with the juggernaut and the titan that is South Korea, but there's been a huge amount of competition here regardless. And I mean, Sweden dealt with Australia back in Sydney. They know what it's like. It was a tough road for them. Sweden had a bit of a cruisier run themselves. Obviously, that 3-0 against UK looked definitive. But they're not looking like the same team right now, and they need to rediscover the element that got them through that first match so comfortably yesterday. Let's look at the defensive lineups here, Matt, for Canada.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit during the break when we saw Kings Row come up, and I was kind of thinking this is another map where you could see Canada run Mangachu on the Junkrat, Agility's on the Roadhog, and then XQC on the Orisa. And I think, look, Agility's a fantastic Roadhog. It kind of alleviates, maybe Mangachu on the Diva, not really something that he's comfortable on. They're able to play the Junkrat as well. It'll be Rolf getting an early first pick onto Vic. Now you're going to be forced to use your res. So it's a good start here for Canada.
Notice that the Holt pulled Swoosh out of position on that Reinhardt. That left Vic open to being taken down, and Brook managed to find him in the absence of that Reinhardt shield. A quick and hasty res being drawn out of chips there, and Sweden are still running with 6, but their Mercy's a little bit low on HP. Manhattan is well charged though. A lot of damage potential here for Sweden coming forward. Now the res being drawn out of Joe Meister as Vic gets that kill on Mangachu. Pressure is mounting, and Sweden are approaching.
Yeah, that's the downside of the Orisa versus Reinhardt, right? Because you see the barrier that Manhattan's just able to shoot around it. It's going to be one tick here for Sweden, putting down a ton of damage here. It's going to be Manhattan doing a lot of nice work on this Zarya. It's Sherp up top, just trying to put down damage here for Canada. But Sweden getting very close to taking point A. It'll be a contest that comes in from XQC.
3 ticks.
He will fall. And that is going to be a first push pretty much for Sweden, able to take point A.
So I love actually the way this game's playing out. It feels like the old triple tank Overwatch, which is something that the Swedes were very proficient at. It's slow, you move up, it's a war of attrition. Your Roadhog play is designed to try and strip shields away, as is the Junkrat on Sweden. Get more damage done, burst the enemy and push them back, take position. Notice that Sweden had 2 ticks, while most of Canada were actually still standing. Canada had to give ground, and Sweden used that to incrementally gain position and positional advantage.
Yeah, there's nothing Sharp4 can do when he's on the high ground behind enemy lines on the 76. What does he do? Drop down to the point, he dies instantly. XQC, the only one alive. It'll be Manatyn planning a huge grab here. It's going to be the Transcendence that comes out from Canada.
Interesting, actually, that Sweden respond with their own Transcendence, perhaps a little bit concerned about the presence of that whole hog. Both teams have actually exercised caution in using ultimates up until this point, but they've let them go now. Rolf drops to Snillo. He's got himself into the backline, but he's rezzed up. Tvik Riptide doesn't quite make it all the way. It clipped on the payload. He was hoping for more than his XQC. That's the one pick off for the Riptide, but you need more than that. The heal came straight, the res, should I say, came straight through from Joe Meister to bring him back up. Tvik again trying to stay safe in the backline to get damage done, but he's got to backpedal a little bit.
Yeah, but they knew that was Joe Meister's second res. That'll let Chips force his own Valkyrie out, and he brings back Swoosh and Manatyn into the fight. But Canada pushing back Sweden. This is not a good fight for Sweden. They ended up using their Transcendence. They're getting very close to another one here, but they invested, their grab at the beginning of that, and they invested their Valkyrie there.
That was stunning stuff from Rolf. We might get to check it out a little bit later, what he was able to do in that fight. But you notice that Tvik kind of eventually got himself into a compromising position as he worked up in that book story. He's hoping to try and get flanking damage done. Riptide, by the way, has just been used as by Mangachu. Again, this is more just a zone of ward off. He probably wasn't looking to connect with that too much, and that did get blown up. And the damage didn't come through as a result. He's going to try and keep himself safe now inside the hotel. XQC can give so much protection inside these confined areas with that shield being dropped down. Sebo finds Mangachu. It's going to be a tactical visor used by Sharp4, and Snillo's looking to try and assassinate, but it's going to draw out the Transcendence here. Sweden going to be able to weather the storm of the aimbot and stay up. XQC being largely ignored for the moment here. The damage eventually is delivered to him and he falls.
And Agility's going to earn himself a whole hog. We'll see if he uses it here. He's going to pull it out. That's going to allow Canada maybe get their support ult. It's going to be Joe Meister. He's actually able to get his Valkyrie here. It's going to be Agility. He's able to take out two. Chips just trying to stay alive here. Mercy doing a fantastic job with the moves.
That's massive. He actually allowed Snillo to get a kill with the pulse bomb. He kept him alive, locked enough, but there just wasn't enough players from Sweden. And there was a heck of a lot of damage forthcoming from Canada. You can see now the cleanup part of the fight. That's where Mangachu and Sharp4 really can start to do damage safely and unimpeded by shielding.
Sharp4 will drop to Tvik here as he's trying to get a little bit aggressive, pushing this on out. Canada, you'll have your Transcendence coming in, you'll have your Riptire as well. Sharp4 getting very close to another attack visor, but Sweden, I expect the attack to come in pretty heavy here. It'll be Mangachu using his own Riptire here, trying to go off the high ground. Oh.
That's some parkour level stuff. He's going to drop it down. Swoosh actually wasn't even damaged by it there. That's so interesting. He's still quite healthy. Perhaps the Riptire was blown up, I think, at just the right moment. Manatyn goes for an aggressive charge. Now, if you watched the animated short yesterday, that's not really the play. That's not what you want to go for and get aggressive. Swoosh trying to come forward as well, but now the Transcendence. Canada are going to use that now. It's not just defensively, but also to shepherd them forward with a bit of healing as they try and get in the face of the Swedes. Tac finds it out for Sharp4, but there's a lot of shielding in his way. He's going to try and break Swoosh's barrier, but it's still being held up. The Hulk used to bring everyone together, but Sharp4 gets very little for that ultimate. He's getting harassed from the side. Oh, supports, watch out! But no, the Riptide goes down in mid-air. Tvik hit it with a remote mine. That's some classy stuff.
And Mangachu just able to get another Riptire that quick. He's trying to stay alive. Sweden, though, pushing the payload closer and closer to point B. Should be able to take this. It'll be Canada backing out. We'll see if Canada makes any changes. It looks like we're going to see Sharp4 go over to the McCree, so they're going to be able to put a little bit more damage down at range.
This is more of a grind than diamond matchmaking in the Pirate Chimp composition, Matt. This has been quite the slow affair. These two teams have been frictioning up against each other as they push their way through the second phase. Eventually Sweden get there and there's a Graviton available, so they can snowball this situation. Nicely done. Zebasai forces the res from Joe Meister. That's as good as getting the kill, especially where Mercy dominates the meta. He's going to get himself closer to that next Transcendence, but Sweden want to group. They want to make sure all the pieces of the puzzle are in place before they pull the trigger.
Well, Sweden is going to have both of their support ults. The same with Canada. If you're Canada, you just have to make sure Joe Meister does not get caught in this grab. He can come back, land a res. There is the grab, and it's a beautiful one.
It's going to be the pulse bomb as well. Snillo manages to connect it. There's no Diva present on the Canadian roster, so Manatyn can feel confident by shooting a Graviton Surge downrange from long distance. He doesn't have to put himself in harm's way to do that anymore, and it's worked out beautifully. Zebasai helping with the cleanup in that fight, but the pulse bomb from Snillo was a nice touch.
Yeah, and Joe Meister, knowing the fight is pretty much lost, does not decide to use his Valkyrie there. Brings one player up, he falls right away, then Joe Meister falls. It'll be Tvik here using the Riptire, going to bring it right to the door. Able to stop some of the players. It'll be Sharp4 taking that tire out. Here comes Mangachu's tire. It's going to force a Transcendence out on the side of Sweden.
Looks like an episode of Police Academy right now. All these Riptires are being used, and Chips actually was felled by Magnitude's Riptire. So we weren't able to stop it this time, and that's going to take all of the wind out of their sails. That's a Mercy with Valkyrie, and also a huge component of their healing, now fallen by the wayside and forced to respawn back in.
And if you're Canada, you got the Transcendence out from the side of Sweden. Now you know you only have to worry about Chips.
Oh,
It's going to have that Valkyrie. It'll be Rolf taking out Snillo here, and it's going to be an Earth Shatter that comes in from Swoosh. It's a big one, but there's no follow-up coming in because Sherford with the Deadeye able to take out 3.
now Swoosh is just going to go skydiving. There's not much more to be done here. Sure4 is made sure of that. 4 kills in the fight for the Canadian superstar, and the McCree is signature pick for this man. Worked out a treat. Let's see how it all went down. Look at him sitting in the back, has good positioning. Gonna try and shut down the Earth Shatter as it comes in. The barrier is taken down. When Swoosh decided to try and follow up on his own Earth Shatter, he dropped the protective zone for his team, opens them up to that Deadeye.
The only downfall there for Canada is they use both of their support ults. Coming in the next fight, you're going to have the Transcendence for Sweden. You're going to have it to Vic with a Riptire. Snillo with a Pulse Bomb. A lot of ults here for Sweden to work with towards the end.
Riptide from Tvik now as well. It's time for him to step up to the plate. What can he get done here again? Very much trying to go around the garden path, as it were. He found Joe Meister, that'll do it. Especially when Chip's getting the res on Tvik just after he dies. Snillo actually challenged down Sure4 off camera, manages to find that McCree. It's a dangerous task for a Tracer, but it worked out. Zebasai still taken down, but Canada running out of numbers here. It's Snillo to find Magnitude, and they get across the line. It's 11 seconds on the clock, and not exactly the most blistering pace they would have hoped for. But it'll get the job done, at least for the time being.
Yeah, Sweden just with a few more ults at the end there. They had the Riptire, they had the Pulse Bomb, they had their Transcendence. That last fight that Canada ended up winning, right, where Swoosh uses the Earth Shatter. Canada is forced to use both of their support ults, the Valkyrie and the Transcendence. They don't have either of those to keep them alive towards the end.
With Junkrat now being such a key component of these two team compositions, these teams have never had more damage at their fingertips, but they're dealing with a lot of shielding, and with Mercy being in the state that she is, a lot of healing. So despite the fact that there's so much front-loader burst from both these two teams, it's still about how it's employed and where.
Yeah, it's going to be huge to see coming into this next round what Canada decides to do, because they have some options here, right? You could run Pharah Mercy with Mangachu. You could have Mangachu run Junkrat again. You could bring Agilities in on the Roadhog too. You could have Mangachu run something like Hanzo. This is where he gets scary for a team like Sweden to go up against, because but you would say when he's playing D.Va, maybe that's a matchup that they could take advantage of, right? When you have him on the D.Va, we've seen some mixed results. But when you get him on some of these pocket picks that he has, it's very hard to game plan against him.
Yeah, Pharah is a distinct possibility here, especially given the history of this team. Mangachu also says that his Hanzo is one of his most favorite picks. I don't know if we're going to see it here, but if we do see the Misfits come out with a similar composition, if Junkrat's going to be used, it's going to be a big deal. Final moments here, of course, and that was Canada starting to feel it. Obviously, the payload eventually made it towards the end of the map there, but they were in control, and having 11 seconds on the clock is very, very good. So Sweden come without any hit scan pressure. If there were to be a Pharah at some stage, Canada could exploit this.
Which you could see Canada switch to when they find that out, but Canada is going to go with Junkrat Hanzo as their DPS off the rip
here we go!
And so this is kind of interesting because you can use that Junkrat to put down a ton of damage, break the shields, and then all it takes with Hanzo is 1 or 2 arrows, and you unlock the point for your team.
Yeah, and so much damage. Again, it's the amount of damage is available to get rid of these shields is big, but Magnitude's going to suffer there. Tvik comes around the sides and knows he needs to deal with Magnitude. He is a priority target on the side of Canada right now, and a huge threat to the rest of Sweden. But Tvik so far is doing a very good job of managing this level of threat. He's also found XQC off camera, and there wasn't a Resurrect available for Joe Meister, so that puts Canada at 5 on the attack.
And we'll see how long Canada sticks with this. Maybe
no, don't go in there!
Oh, it hurts! That's like the worst spot you could have gone there.
What up now, Sweden? Magnitude kick it off. Thanks Jaguar for that line, but it's so true. It's a palm to the face. He doesn't even need the close fist. Oh, one on a Dragon Strike as well. Zoning off the point. He's going to give Canada a lot of room to move now, and he has shattered the Swedish defense into smithereens.
Run, Chips! All right, Chips got out alive. Everybody else fell, though. Mangachu with some amazing Hanzo play here. The beginning of Canada's attack on King's Row, and you could see how that comp worked, right? You had a lot of the damage from Canada forcing Sweden back into the corner, then a scatter arrow takes out Manitin in the close quarters. A fantastic hook there by Agility. He's not able to finish off Snillo. He's going to get some help. It'll be a pin that comes out from Swoosh, but a good comp here from Canada at the beginning with a fantastic start from Mangachu here. As it's going to be Sherfor uses Riptire, takes a Swoosh. Mangachu with another kill as Canada is starting to heat up.
Chips, it was close. He was down to 57 HP. The plucky Swede tries to go for the Caduceus Blaster and deal with Agilities, but it's not going to be enough. Agilities looking for more, and the crowd is getting behind it. Canada are feeling it, so is everybody else.
Oh, goodbye.
Oh, it's getting real now. It's getting real. Agilities with a nice hook there as well on Swoosh, follows up with a bit of extra damage, and look how far forward Canada are pushing, setting up very deep, preventing Sweden from setting up. Sweden have so many ultimates, but they don't have the positional opportunity to use them.
Well, Agilities can take up so much space on the Roadhog, right? He's able to heal himself up. They'll be pretty self-sustainable. And then, you know, you have the whole hog if they start to push in, and here's going to be the whole hog, forcing Sweden back yet again. Maybe, you know, if you were lucky, you would have gotten one of those support ults now, but now Canada, as they push forward, they're going to have a lot of damage coming through. It's going to be 2 kills, though, here for Sweden. Joe Meister brings Sherfor back into the fight, just to get a little bit more consistent damage going into the choke.
This might be the end of the spawn camp here. It's going to be an Earth Shadow that comes in. I think only one player on the side of Canada was felled by that one, but it doesn't seem to be an issue. Graviton comes in, the bomb, good response. There was a Transcendence in play from Roof, and the only way to deal with that healing per second is to stick some burst damage on the top.
And now I wonder if we see Canada make some changes. You know, they made a lot of good progress with this comp, and now you're going to see Mangachu. It looked like he was going to switch over to the Pharah, but we're going to have an interesting change. So Mangachu will now go over to Roadhog, and you'll have Agilities playing Genji here for Canada. So we know what we've seen Agilities in the past do on Genji. As I say that, he gets
That's not an easy shot to make.
But he's going to be much better than what I just alluded to. He just dropped right away. But you know, Agilities we saw all throughout contenders. We've seen it in the past. Fantastic Genji player. We'll see if he causes problems for Sweden.
Well, spawn camping seems to be the name of the game for now. It's going to be Sweden pushing forward, trying to take some progress back. The payload will slide in the direction of Canada during this time. And Sherfor now to the McCree. Note here that he will have the XQC shield to rely on. Snillo is going to try and threaten him from the backside, but he's going to try and put some longer range pressure down on, you know, these Mercies, these Junkrats sitting back in Sweden's backline.
It's going to be hard, though, for Canada in this next fight because you have both support ults for Sweden. It'll be Mangachu here coming on a flank. Catches everybody from Sweden off guard. He's going to take out both supports here. So you're not going to see the Transcendence come through. You're not going to see the Valkyrie. Now it gives Canada a great opportunity. They can push on through. They may be able to take point B.
This is the kind of composition from Canada that it says, come to Daddy, we're ready for you. The flash is available for Sherfor, so if Sweden get too close, they're going to be warded away by the CC, the crowd control ability that McCree possesses. Now, this Riptire has been running for a while. He actually managed to sneak onto the payload, but good spread from Canada. They keep themselves spaced apart, so they're not all affected by that at once. Another Graviton Surge being used, and that's another big pulse bomb. Snillo seems to have the icing, the cherry on the cake for all of these Gravitons, but yet it hasn't stopped Canada. Not quite yet. XQC up on the payload, fortifying himself just to get that damage reduction. Now steps back behind his shield, but Snillo's there. He's going to circumvent that, I guess that small area. Get behind the Orisa and get the damage down. It's a replay. Here's what Snillo did. He got rezzed just for this particular play. And again, the Graviton and the Pulse Bomb combo. Hard to see. A lot of things going on. But Snillo still makes it for 3.
It's a lot of ults invested by Sweden, but Canada as well. Agilities uses Dragon Blade, didn't get anything. Sherfor with a Deadeye there towards the end. Didn't get anything with it either. So you use both of those ultimates. You use your Valkyrie as well. Be Snillo taking out Agilities. It's going to force the res coming out from Joe Meister. Joe Meister, when he went in for the res, gets taken out. We saw that happen yesterday on Kings Row with Canada as well. Joe Meister going to res Agilities up top on the defensive end. Just going a little bit too deep to save one of his DPS players and falls.
And that's not worthwhile. If you can punish a Mercy going for that quick resurrect, then you've done an excellent job. And you've essentially negated that effect and put the enemy team behind. Also, prevented them from having healing for the next 10 seconds. So their ability, their staying power in this stage of the map is heavily reduced. So Riptire's going to come through over the top from Tvik now as well. He's found himself a big tank, and XQC goes the way of the Fallen there. Again, another full reset for Canada. They need that Winston to start these fights. Mangachu's out of position now as well. He's hoping just to cheekily make a Sinatra move back through them. Yet he does escape, but it's going to be the Earth Shadow to cut him down. Swoosh is not going to let this go unpunished.
And now Canada's going to be forced to full reset here. They're going to have to back out. 20 seconds left. You expect the pressure to come through from Sweden. You're going to have both support ults online for Sweden. Snillo takes out XQC at the beginning.
That's huge.
It's going to be a huge kill. They just need to get a touch, Canada. You see Sherfor going on a flank here. He switches over to the Tracer, and I think Tvik has that's an idea that he's going all the way around.
The payload's a long way away, and Sweden done a very good job of pushing forward. Shortfall was trying to secure overtime by getting to the payload, but there's no opportunity to do so. Sweden do the right thing. They get up in Canada's face. They were a long way away from the payload. The defender's advantage was palpable there for Sweden, and they use it. Now we have a series, Matt. It's one apiece, and the response is echoing around this arena from Sweden. They will not go down so easily.
Yeah, and on the offensive side for Canada, things were rolling with the Hanzo and the Junkrat. As soon as Sweden, though, they had banked up so many ults, right? As soon as they won that first fight, they never let up.
Righto, well, 2 maps down, hopefully many more to come. We're going to head to a break and then get a word from our analyst desk for the halftime show. Don't go too far, more to come.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
It's clear that he is among the very best players in the world. What makes him special is his diversity of hero selections. He can play basically anything.
His Tracer is almost unstoppable. That's the strong point of the Swedish roster.
The defenders in this situation, even as Tvik winning that one-on-one battle. Tvik has been on fire here today.
It's a vindication for the Swede.
You can put the guy on Zarya, you can put the guy on Genji or Tracer or Soldier, and he's always going to turn up, especially under pressure. I mean, the guy just turns into a beast at land, so Tvik is just something else to watch, really.
Tvik is just such class. You don't see that much class out of a lot of these younger guys. Just seeing his composure, just seeing, you know, the type of headspace this guy constantly is in, is kind of a reason why we're seeing Team Sweden move on to BlizzCon.
My overall composure is just like a natural thing. I'm just like always thinking like, what can I do now to improve our next fight? Or what can I do now to win this fight? Like, it's always like a constant thinking, of constant adaptation.
Tvik cleaning up the scraps off of the chaos.
Just an extra insurance policy for Sweden.
Tvik can play a ton of different heroes in extremely high level. He's been arguably the best player in the world for a very long time now. He's definitely one of the most important people on the Swedish roster and one of the big reasons why they're going to do pretty well at BlizzCon.
What a way to kick things off here. We're at the half and it's all tied up 1-1. Sweden versus Canada certainly has been an explosive matchup, and I use that with pun fully intended because of the Junkrat plays that we have seen on both sides, from Tvik and from Mangachu as well. It's been amazing. What a game so far, James.
Yeah, everything's been coming up explodey here in this matchup, and that Junkrat all across both Nepal and Kings Row, and it's been a sight to behold, really.
What about for you, Zeep?
It's been very interesting. I think that both teams have definitely showed us some good stuff. Canada in particular, where Canada is just, I think, shored up some of their weaknesses that we saw from day number one. And we'll get into that in a little bit.
That's very true. Now, James, I do understand that you have a highlight for me because it has been a bit of a challenge for Snillo, a young man here playing on the world stage. He hasn't really found his groove yet. What do you got for me, buddy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw on Kings Road that he, on the offense, had a little bit difficulty trying to get in because he had to deal with the threat of Mangachu. He had to deal with agilities on that Roadhog. So if we go into this highlight we have, we'll see how they actually deal with him. At one point, as a Tracer, if you try to get into the back line, we see he blinks around to the back, and he's going to be able to get this frag onto Rolf. But as a Tracer, you're just way out of position. So he commits, gets the kill, instant res comes in, and he gets punished by that Riptire coming out from Mangachu. We're going to see it once again from the overhead camera here. Now, they had a great engage, but once again, Snillo tries to get to the back, and he gets punished. He doesn't have the res. They have the man advantage on the side of Canada.
Something that I think is really important to note here is that Snillo was running the obstacle course this entire time, where Canada was running both the Roadhog and the Junkrat gear. And when we looked at Snillo trying to move around and get into the back, what would constantly happen is you'd see agilities move forward and deny him access to Joe Meister. You would see him run around and run into Mangachu in a dark alley. Not a great look overall.
You make it sound so ominous. You know?
Well, it is pretty ominous because that's how you get exploded.
Yeah. Well, speaking of explosions here, we have Junkrat stats for Mangachu. I mean, this guy was lights out in that Kings Row game. He also got to bust out the Hanzo as well. He had a couple big plays. That scatter kill as well was ridiculous. You never go into a corner when daddy's got the scatter arrow, you know, like, come on, people. But hey, you know, mistakes were made at that moment. That being said, though, now that we are all tied up 1-1, I'm sure we have been singing the praises here of Canada for what they've done right. They did lose that Kings Row game. So, James, you're Canada going into this. What do you do to bounce out of it? Or better yet, you're Sweden. How do you continue to ride the wave?
I mean, Canada looked like they were running out of steam a little bit there, especially on their offense. We kind of saw them really try to go back to basics with agilities, going on to that Genji once again, and then putting Mangachu on the Roadhog. That was a really odd move, I would say. You might as well just go ahead and put that Diva in there, possibly try to eat up some of those Gravitons, or even possibly the Pulse Bomb, because those were the big combos that came in time and time again that were shutting down that offense.
Yeah.
I think the issue there, though, is that Canada was doing well because they were keeping Mangachu to heroes of strength for him. They kept him on the Junkrat. They put him on the Hanzo, where we've seen him use the Hanzo very well on First Point Kings Row. The issue here is that Diva has not really been a strength for him, but there was a time in the past where Roadhog was. So I think for Canada, even though it didn't quite work out there and it got them off their comfort zone, for them, they're trying to play up to their strengths, and they're also trying to protect their weaknesses, where you look at Joe Meister, and he had bodyguards the entire time. They realized that it was a little bit of a rough day for Mercy yesterday, but now we're going to protect you. We're going to shore up across the line, and even though they weren't able to take Kings Row, I do like the approach that Canada is taking here from a strategical level.
Well, you know who else I like the approach of? T-Mobile. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You guys can get involved and vote for the T-Mobile MVP. It's very easy. If you're in the Twitch chat right now, you could use the exclamation mark T-Mobile MVP and then the battle tag of the player that you want to vote for on Twitter. Same thing there, except this time it's with a hashtag. So you hashtag T-Mobile MVP, and then you put the battle tag of the player that you are looking to vote for. We'll catch up with the leaderboard later on in the show and see where we are. That being said, though, while the Canadians did fall in Game 2, they have had a very strong showing against Sweden. And we had an opportunity to catch up with Canada, get their thoughts, and see how they felt coming into the 2017 Overwatch World Cup playoffs.
Surefour has been one of, if not the best North American DPS player so far in Overwatch.
He's one of these sick players that have been insane at the game since the release of the game.
He is one of the main superstar players that people think of when they think of professional Overwatch, and he's been a big reason as to why Team Canada has been successful.
Heard that. He knows he's there. Goodbye.
Oh, it hurts bad.
He's one of those people who came out to the scene first. Everyone was just like, how is he so good? How can he, get those shots?
At the start of his career, people thought that the guy was cheating. He was just so good. And one of the biggest things about Surefour is his ability just to stay cool under pressure.
I think the biggest thing about my Tracer is consistency. I don't have like off days or amazing days. I'm pretty consistent in how I play.
Airtime Sherpor looking for the pickup with a pulse bomb right now. Is going to find Hex on the side.
That's big. He's what we like to call in the Overwatch scene a unicorn, where he is an incredibly versatile player.
I can pretty much play any hero, so I can always just drift around.
Sherpor is an extremely talented hit-scan player. Personally, I love him best on McCree. He's got that dreamy cowboy look about him.
Whether it be playing Tracer or McCree or 76, I mean, the guy could play any hero and succeed.
In the early matches, oh, Sherpor.
Sherpor is a force to be reckoned with.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
The latest chapter in the age-old conversation of NA or EU rages on, and so far, it's neck and neck in this series. Sweden versus Canada here in our first semi-final, the Overwatch World Cup 2017. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Uber. I'm here with Mr. X, and we are strapping ourselves in for some time in Arcade Town. It's Hanamura.
It looks like Canada will be on offense first, at least at the start here. It looks like, I know you're going to have agilities running the Genji, Sherpor on the Tracer. Maybe we see an offensive team pull out a Widow, get a little bit inspired by what you saw with Flower do last night. Fortunately for either of these teams, they don't have a Widow like Flower, who evidently can't miss. That was just an insane performance last night. But no, Sherpor, pretty good Widow maker. Same with Manitou on the side. We've seen, on the side of Sweden, we've seen him play some Widow in the past. But on defense, at least for Sweden, it looks like you'll have a Winston Roadhog combination in terms of tanks. You'll have Tvik on the 76 and then Snillo on the Tracer.
Plenty of solid Widowmaker players on either side of the map here. However, it's unlikely we'll see anything like that last night. That's the stuff for special occasions. That's the stuff you keep in the pantry and only put on the table for Christmas and Thanksgiving. That's the fancy cookware. But Canada and Sweden have their own way to go for it. Zebasai there as well, having good performance in that last map. Very much involved in the fights, and Canada want to do the same. Roof this time says, all right, Zebo, you might have your screen real estate, but I'm now going to show up, and that first frag is a Zen on Zen 1, and Chips has to res him straight back up. That's another one for Roof. He's the only man with kills so far from the backline, commanding his forces and getting the damage done.
Yeah, they're going to bring Mangachu back up onto the point. XQC somehow still alive on this Winston, and he gets aggressive right away. You have this dive comp that comes out from Canada Rolf. Just loading up those orbs of Zenyatta. He's going to put a lot of them right in the face of Swoosh. Now Zebasai just trying to stay alive. They split him off. Here comes Tvik onto the point. Trying to find something with his tac visor. It's going to force the Transcendence out.
Yeah, he's forced to back away behind the bell there. He probably could have even gone for the 1v1 on towards Tvik because there was a Discord orb, but then we saw the Valkyrie come out a little bit hard. Chips was getting got a good healing, but Rolf has gotten so many kills so far in this round. This is insane. 5 final blows for Rolf, 8 eliminations. The highest on his team. It's insane. Surefire has 4 eliminations. He's in second. So Rolf really getting the damage done.
It's a fantastic start for Team Canada. They do have their Valkyrie here. On the side of Sweden, you already used your Valkyrie. You're getting very close to the Transcendence. We can have the overlay swap for you guys just a second up at the top. But Canada on the attack. They have built up a good chest of ultimates here. They're going to lose a few players. They're going to have to back out there.
Still, definitely the start that Canada were looking for. And again, with these two teams, no one's reinventing the wheel, man. It's a slow, concerted approach towards the points, and it's simply a matter of trying to outdamage your opponents, quickly try and exploit any weaknesses that you can identify. Agility's is close to that Dragon Blade, though. That's definitely another way of trying to carve a swath through a defensive team. But again, they need to get position. They need this high ground. They're going to get the reflect on towards that hook. It's not going to connect. Now Agility's is going to make his way forward soon. The Primal Rage in the background as Vic does fall as res hastily.
Well, you have Canada going to the lineup they used yesterday on Hanamura, where you have Surefour, you get him set up on the high ground. Here's going to be the blade that comes out from Agilities. It's going to be the Transcendence that comes through. Joe Meister with the Valkyrie, he brings 2 players back to life as Canada trying to take this point.
Up on the point, they've got 3 players there. Sweden is struggling to respond to this a little bit now. Joe Meister sees Rolf is being harassed in the backside, does offer him a little bit of healing. Then Rolf just drops on towards the point. The Transcendence, he was saving up in that little engagement, now gets used. Still, it gets a pulse bomb on Surefour, which is not an easy thing to do given how sprightly Soldier 76 is in his old age. And now the rest of Sweden are starting to turn the tide. An inexorable grip of the blue and yellow now is firmly back on their point.
And Canada uses both support ults there. Sweden, to Vic, holds on to his Dragon Blade. So now for the next fight, you have the Dragon Blade at the hands of Sweden. You most likely don't have to use your Valkyrie to take this fight. There's nothing that can sustain Canada through it. And then now Sweden can start to build up some good ultimate economy, right? Because you use that Dragon Blade, you win the fight, you don't have to spend anything else. You'll get both support ults back, you'll get a Primal Rage, you get a Pulse Bomb for that next fight. You have a lot more utility to use as well.
If they can win the fight with just the Dragon Blade, that'd be pretty good. And it'd be pretty efficient given the way that Genji generally operates and interacts with defending teams this day and age. Surefour wants to get a good position up on this ledge. He wants to be there, unfettered while the rest of his team goes up. Vic doesn't want to give him free reign there because he knows that tactical visor from Surefour, that off angle, is going to be absolutely devastating. So Surefour's waiting to try and get rid of it, but he's not going to get out. Snillo knows exactly who he needs to pulse bomb. That's the second consecutive pulse bomb that claims the life of Surefour, and here's the Dragon Blade, just for the finishing touches.
And XQC is going to use his Primal Rage. You're going to see the Primal Rage come out from Swoosh as well. XQC jumps off the side there. Nothing he can do. Now Canada, they have a better chance coming back in the next one. You see Tavik use his Dragon Blade. The Primal Rage comes out from Sweden. Sweden, still has both of their support ults. But look at Canada now. Everybody but XQC has their ultimate. You can use that Tac Visor, maybe force one of the support ults out. You can keep everybody alive with your own support ults, and then maybe see if Agilities can do some work with his own Dragon Blade.
We did see that Vic, in his quarterfinal game, had a lot of Dragon Blades, very frequently pulled. He'd like to have one now, but unfortunately used in the last fight, so it's going to be Agility's turn to step up to the plate in just a second. It's 5 ultimates for Canada. Swoosh is down already. Force the res. Chips gets him back up, and now Mannerton falls here. A huge opening for Canada to come forward. It's going to be the Valkyrie for Chips to try and get Mannerton back up on his feet. Getting rid of Surefour. It was a master play there, but he's brought back into the game by Joey Meister. Now Canada are the one. They're taking a lot of hits. Tavik now is looking for Rolf. He finds him. It's the right click to claim him. 3 Shuriken thrust in the general direction, and that'll be good night, Sweet Prince.
Oh man, not a good fight for Canada. Use both support ults there. You don't really get anything out of it. Now Tavik has built up another Dragon Blade. By the way, Zevoside didn't have to use the Transcendence there, so you still hold on to that. It's a big win there for Sweden. Now they have a huge advantage as the clock dwindling down for Canada.
Defensively speaking, Sweden are a very, very good team, especially in this series. Their attacks haven't exactly been the stuff of legend, but we saw they're able to erect on King's Row that incredible defense where they push forward, and now they're looking comfortable. They've got 5 ultimates. If they ration these out for the long winter that they should damn well be used to by now, they should be comfortable here and making this incredibly costly for Canada.
Yeah, I mean, what is your best play here if you're Canada? You can go for that high ground. Maybe you force out the Transcendence and another ult, and you're able to take it, but it's Snillo with a Pulse Bomb. Now everything's starting to fall apart here for Canada. They can't even get close to the point as it's going to be Sweden rolling on through them. Now Sweden pushing on forward. Going to try and stagger XQC out here. He's the only one alive. trying to put down some more damage. He will fall. So he earns himself Primal Rage. Now for Canada. Oh, okay. Well,
from downtown as well. That was a stunning shot from Shore4.
Yeah, I mean, you get chips, but can you take advantage of it, right? I mean, he's going to get right back up into the fight. Maybe it just forces Sweden back a little bit, but Sweden, with all of these ultimates, in complete control of this game.
Mangachu's going to be quite frustrated playing up against Manhattan at the moment because there's not much he can do about a hook. If he gets hooked in by that Roadhog and burst down very quickly, that mech is going to be done very, very quickly. And Canada's defensive capability will be cut significantly. Now it's going to be the Primal Rage on towards the point. XQC is trying to draw attention away from this high ground, but he falls to the whole hog. A very good response from Manhattan. There's nothing that the tank and XQC can do about that. This one Roadhog pick simultaneously is able to counter Mangachu and XQC's presence purely on the intrinsic nature of his kit.
Yeah, the Primal Rage from XQC, it draws out the whole hog and it draws out a Primal Rage. He's going to switch now over to the Reinhardt, so maybe try and get those Shore4 set up on that high ground a little bit easier behind the shield, but maybe you see the Primal Rage come out from XQC trying to push some players back, maybe like bait out one of those support ults, get somebody a little bit trigger happy, you know, popping a Transcendence or something.
Again, it's about getting Canada into position without getting picked off. That's why we'll need this Rhine shield. Oh, that's not good. Shore4 got stuck. Snillo's found him again. A res, but Snillo already found Joe Meister. He's completely gutted Canada before they even got started. Once again,
these pushes don't even really start for Canada. It's just very difficult. It'll be Shore4 using the attack visor here. Now it's Canada fighting back. XQC takes out to Vic. Shore4 is going to take out Zebo.
Here's a chance.
And here's a chance for Canada. Chips off the spawns, going to have the Valkyrie. Let's see how they play this.
Second tick pretty close now as well. It's Vic's going to go for the Dragon Blade. That's a ballsy play for him. He's going to go on the high ground. He still finds Shore4 despite the presence of Joe Meister, who bursts through the healing. But Joe gets the res. Vic now is going to get back up on his feet. Zebasai switching towards the Widowmaker. The very short-lived Etude. He's going to be taken down. Another res again from Chips to bring him back up. Primal Rage from Swoosh controlling space. Chips on the high ground, but Shore4 is back and he's here to do some damage. But no, the Winston's in his way. The Primal Rage knocks him back on towards his lower ground, and he's not done there. Swoosh identifies a key target in the whirling midst of this chaos and gets rid of him. Now it's time for Agilities to step up with the Dragon Blade. He's found Swoosh. Mangachu's low. Joe Meister desperately trying to keep him alive while Agilities and Vic are locked in a deadly 1v1. Agilities disengages from that fight, tries to back away, but those res cooldowns are coming through now. Mangachu is back up. Zebasai in position now on this Widowmaker, and that's it! It's gonna be the hold. 1 point for Canada. They're unsuccessful to push all the way through, and Swoosh. What a huge moment. The King of the Jungle comes up big. These are some of the opening moments. Wolf, such a key player. In fact, both of those flex supports for these two teams were huge.
Yeah, Rolf at the beginning, for point A was huge for Canada. There towards the end, I love that play by Swoosh. They're really using the races to bring up Shore4 back into the fight constantly, up on the high ground on the 76. And there towards the end, Zebosai switches to the Widow. Maybe he's able to get a shot at him up on the high ground, and maybe Zebo's able to take out the Mercy, Joe Meister. But it was really Swoosh getting in Shore4's face, forcing him down from that high ground. Just bought his teammates some time, get on the point, without the consistent damage coming down from the 76.
Swoosh was laser focused there on chasing Joe Meister at the time. Joe was up on the high ground, he got the res towards Shore4, and he eventually got picked up, and then Swoosh realized that, wait a minute, I'm standing on top of an enemy Soldier 76. He pursued his target doggedly. There was no space for Shore4 to operate. In that position, when you're set up as an attacking Soldier 76, on that high ground ledge facing the front of the point, you can do an incredible amount of work there, especially if you are unattended. But the priority and the clear calls to focus down Shore4 and take him off of his high perch was a huge component of what allowed Sweden not only to cut the damage potential of Canada in that last fight, but ultimately to hold.
And the Winston is so frustrating for the 76 to deal with on the high ground because, obviously Winston with the great mobility, able to just jump right up, and then you try and escape away to that lower ground, he's able to jump down, and then just body block you. You're forced to just basically just put all your bullets into Winston. You can't get any damage, and then he drops the bubble right.
He's as good as a shield. He doesn't even need a shield because he fills up so much of your field of view. Frustrating stuff.
You can't really get around him.
And XQC knows how to do that too. Both these two teams are very proficient Winston players. Notice that Canada are LOSing right now, which means that they're blocking line of sight, or they're not really giving Sweden this information. They're going to hide around the corner. And Sweden are going to have to walk in and deal with this up close and personal, which is kind of what Canada are hoping for. They've made a lot of noise. Sweden have given their position away to Canada. They could be chased here. Sweden want to try and rotate around, take the high ground, and Canada have to let them do that. It's too risky for them to try and take them on head on right now. But now they're split a little bit here. XQC going to the point. Swoosh is trying to decide where he needs to be right now, but good focus to fire from Shore4 on the high ground. Again, the man's unattended.
Yeah, and something from Sweden here, just to point out, you're going to see Zebasai running the Lucio. That's just going to give them the speed to get up towards that high ground. A lot of the support combos we've seen throughout the weekend has been the Zen and the Mercy with the Discord Orbs. Not going to see that from Sweden. See, the damage going to need to do even more work.
Chips, careful. I tell you what, the man's got cojones if he wants to try and go head-to-head with a Tracer like that, but he doesn't exactly have the fire rate or the mobility or the survivability or the...
Lacking a lot, lacking a lot.
Not exactly a fair fight, but he went for it regardless. And interesting stat there as well, that Joe Meister's almost died twice as often. That doesn't necessarily say that they're bad at defending him or that Sweden are good at killing him, but the fact that he has, you know, gone down more times does say something.
Well, I think you can clearly see when we have a lot of these fights, he's a little bit more aggressive than Chips, and when he's going to kind of force it and go
were
for
on
those
the attack
reses.
in the first half as well. Bear that in mind. Sweden were defending, so it's safer for him.
Naturally, he needs to be more aggressive.
Yeah. So we'll see if that really means anything in the grand scheme of things. But Sweden now dropped on towards the point. The bell does toll, but for whom, Matt? That's the question. Swoosh has dropped onto the point now. The pulse bomb giving follow-up. Still is there on towards Shore 4. Swoosh is more than happy to get up inside these close quarters and use that Tesla rifle. It's going to be the D-suit on Mangachu now, just in pilot diva form. Not long for this world, no doubt about it. And we're going to have Sweden set up. The team kill gong rings out, not unlike the big old bell next to him. And they'll have this point as they take a deep breath. And so should we too.
And what's even worse for Canada there is they actually use their Valkyrie inside of this room, and Snillo takes out Joe Meister instantly, uses the Valkyrie, gets agilities back up, dies right away. It's a huge win there.
I like
Canada.
Sweden's whole composition allows them to cross that gap outside, so they can sneak around behind Canada. They've caught them unawares here. This is beautiful stuff. They're able to close the gap and get up close, prevent Canada from actually setting up on that top right side as they often want to. So they're already onto the point. That's big. They only need 75% of this capture progress here, so it's not quite even a full capture that's required. Zebasai, though, a little bit caught out, is getting healed up by Chips here. Good attention from Chips to realize his other support is being pressured down. Chips now on the res on towards Swoosh. He did just fall to the Helix rocket of Shore 4, and now to Vic gives it just as good as he gets. Both 76ers have been rezzed up. It's a 6v6 now, but XQC has fallen. Numbers favor Sweden in this fight as it continues, and Zevo's close to a sound barrier. That could be huge in this fight if Sweden can hang on.
Yeah, they put a lot of pressure on him. Mangachu, get him D-max. Chips just healing up. His teammates from the back. Swoosh doing a nice job putting some pressure, but it's going to be Rolf and Sherford trying to keep this alive for Canada, and they have done it for the time being.
Nice job by Sherford there. He knows that Joe Meister was being pressured down by Swoosh. Swoosh was just trying to get an exit kill in that case, so he puts the biotic field down. 76's healing ability. Joe Meister stands inside that healing field. He stays up on his feet. Sweden don't get more than they bargained for, but one tick is a damn good start. 34.4% on the way to 75. That's all they need to win this third map.
And you're going to see Sweden bring the Roadhog out again because it's great, obviously, against Winston. And they're also just trying to catch Mangachu off guard here. It's going to be the Dragon Blade that comes out from agility. He's trying to hunt some players down. Finally gets to Tavik. Tavik takes him out, though, in the process as well. You'll bring Tavik right back into the fight, though.
Yeah, it's a one-for-one trade, but in the meantime, Shore4 and XQC have been doing work. Sweden didn't even get to the point this time around. And that's going to be another one fight for Canada. But I beseech you, have a look at the big old white and blue ticks there for Sweden. They have a lot of ultimates to work with. Valkyrie will be there. Zebasai switches off the Lucio now. Sweden no longer playing for trying to outmaneuver and take Canada by surprise. They get rid of the speed boost. They favor that damage that Zebasai we know can deal from the backline as well as that transcendence when it becomes available.
Well, I mean, in that fight, Sweden invested their sound barrier and they got Canada to burn their Dragon Blade and their own Valkyrie. So it's a pretty good fight there for Sweden, as now Sweden just trying to take this high ground. It's going to be XQC popping the Primal Rage to stay alive. But look at this, they caught Mangachu out of position again with a Roadhog hook. He's going to be forced to use the self-destruct just to get the mech back.
Yeah, and honestly, he was never going to get any value with that ultimate anyway because the suit had been knocked across the map onto the low ground. Zebasai goes down early, but it's picked up yet again. Joe Meister's down. That's big. No resurrect available from Canada right now. This could be the opportunity that they were looking for. Set up on the point. There's two players for Sweden contesting almost that second tick. Still with a pulse bomb here. He's going to be looking for that next target, but no. Madison was low despite having the whole orb of harmony on him. He had to back away and got taken down. That was potentially very dangerous for Canada, but a good recovery to keep themselves back in this fight.
It kind of reminds me of the Junkertown game the other day with Canada. It looks like things are going awful, and then you have agilities on the Genji, Sherford and the Tracer just staying alive on the point, staying alive on the point. Sherford went big in the last game that we saw yesterday against Australia on Junkertown. Goes big there, picks up 2 kills, preserves the game here for Canada.
Transcendence, the aforementioned ultimate ability that Zebasai primarily wanted to switch for, is now available. It's about how that's going to be employed, and again, Rolf opens up the fight well. Again, Chips has to res early, uses that key cooldown, and now another big cooldown. The Transcendence must be drawn out from Sweden. And despite this, Snillo is still felled. Shore4 is more than happy to take the Tracer 1v1, and the young gun from Sweden must bow, he must submit. And now Joe Master trying to res, but there's been quite a lot of damage done. He can't get agilities back on his feet, and now the whole Hog claims that mercy. It's a messy fight, there's no doubt about it. You can see the Chips and Manhattan have essentially swapped places here with Canada, trying to get Shore4. One more shot will get it, and Manhattan connects with a scrap gun, but it's not enough to be going on with. It's not enough for Sweden to build that momentum. Right now, they need to content themselves with building ultimate percentage, getting ready for another big fight. There's a minute 50 left.
Yeah, Shore4 did his job. As soon as he kills Zebasai, it's going to force Sweden to wait a little bit. And something I was just noticing it. Agilities is building up this Dragon Blade so fast. You know, on average, just a minute and 15 seconds to build up towards that blade. Just able to farm on these big tanks, specifically Manhattan, right? You're just able to land down those shots. He's already had another one. It's pretty much been every fight he's been able to have a Dragon Blade.
75 seconds for a Dragon Blade is definitely lower than average, so that's an impressive performance from him. Pulse Bomb de-suits Mangachu, but Chips was felled by Shore4's. That's definitely a better trade if you're Canada. They need the Chips so badly, they require their mercy. And Shore4's been very, very good at penetrating in to the backlines of Sweden and dealing with those key targets. Frustrating for Chips, and if I'm not mistaken, he Valkyried in that fight.
Yes,
he used his ultimate.
He Valkyried at the beginning of the fight. We did see the Valkyrie, though, come out of Joe Meister as well. So both teams invest their mercy ults. You're not going to have that double res coming into the next one. For Sweden, you don't have your Transcendence, so 75% of the way there. You'll probably get it in the next fight, but you're going to have agilities with this Dragon Blade, right? He used the Dragon Blade, they win this fight, then maybe Sweden has one last-ditch effort. It's going to be very tough.
Manhattan hastily taking a breather there. Health back to full. Agilities expects pressure from Zebasai, but he wasn't even noticed, so he uses that cooldown. He's going to go for another cooldown. The Dragon Blade, what can he fight? Oh, Vic does fire up. The tactical visor claims the ninja's life, but not before he got rid of the Omnic Monk. It's Zebasai down. Forced res yet again. That's another one that Chips has had to go for. Look who he's looking for. It's going to be an Angel, but there's no Angels in XQC jungle.
He goes huge. He actually kills Chips with the Primal Rage. Now he forces Tavik all the way out of position off of that high ground. It's a beautiful play for XQC, but look at how many players are on the point for Sweden. It's got to be agilities. Get back on. Keep this one alive for Canada.
They're so close. They need 7% more. That's not much. It's going to be a desperate attempt for Shore4. Drops the pulse bomb, but that's not the present that Canada were looking to give. Sweden set themselves up. They stand tall. It's going to be a second map for the Swedes. And this is starting to heat up.
You know, an XQC used that Primal Rage. He takes out Chips, put a lot of pressure on it. Tavik knocks him down from the high ground. I believe you had Manhattan, Swoosh, and Snillo there on the point for Sweden, taking out some of the other players for Canada, and then Sweden just had a huge advantage on the point.
Great defense from Sweden. The attack was decent. It was enough to get over the line. 2-1 now. Heading to a break. We'll be back with more real quick.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
It's a tough time to be a Mercy player, Matt. Both Chips and Joe Meister getting pressured heavily down in this series. It's game 4, ladies and gentlemen. Canada versus Sweden. Matt, quite the back and forth, Matt. We saw a lot of pulse bomb action, though, previously on Hanamura.
Yeah, to Vic in the previous map, I believe, finished 51 to limbs, just played absolutely out of his mind. But you mentioned both of those Mercy players. You know, Chips out healing Joe Meister and also getting more reses, as it was actually more kills for Sweden. So usually you'd obviously expect, you know, the more kills that go down for one team, the reses and the healing kind of higher up for the opposing team. But it's actually Sweden who's actually able to get a lot more healing out of their Mercy and more reses. And obviously combined with the firepower that they have, it results in a win there on Hanamura.
There might be something there in those numbers, Matt. We'll check them out later on. We'll see how they develop, but watch point Gibraltar. Be our 4th map this series. It will be Sweden starting off on the defensive side, and Matt, I think it's safe to say Sweden have been looking good on their defense in general over this series. They've got triple DPS though on this setup.
We see here at the beginning at least, okay, I thought we were going to see the pirate ship strategy out of Canada. Maybe get Sherfor on the Bastion, get him on the point, but it looks like he's going to be on the Widowmaker. You're going to have agilities here on the Genji.
Oh my god. Sure-for Widowmaker. It's been a while since we've seen this one, Matt. See what he can do. Set up on the high ground again. To emulate Flower would be almost an insurmountable task, but Sure-for, if anyone's going to be up to it, it's him.
And the big player here for me has got to be Chips, right? I mean, as a solo support with that Widowmaker, he's got to be so careful on where to position himself.
No headshots yet for Sure-for. Now it's been pressured down. That's a very underwhelming opener for the star player here on Team Canada. See, Rez is coming out very quickly here. It was Joe Meister and Chips getting Manhattan and Sure-for back up on their feet. So they're investing in this Widowmaker. They really want to keep her on her feet. XQC wins out the 1v1 against Zebasai on the 76. Obviously, he's flexed into that role now. But he's lacking teammates right now. Doesn't really have anyone with him and decide where to go.
And Sure-for was able to take out Chips there, but it was just everybody else from Sweden just stepping up, picking up the kills, allowing Chips to get back into the fight. And as the Widowmaker, I mean, Sure-for's main job here is going to try and take out Chips. They get him very low yet again. He escapes, gets out of harm's way, but the pressure that he can put onto the opposing team's Mercy, that's why you're going to run the Widowmaker.
Agilities very quickly, a riposte in the direction of Snillo as he tried to let a salvo go from those pulse pistols. But now, in over the top, he's looking for the vulnerable backline. Although there's a 76 there, you got to respect that. Zebasai with a tactical visor, more for his own survival than anything else. But XQC, he found 3 kills. 2 of them are off screen with the Primal Rage, and he finds a 3rd. That's a huge break, a huge haul for this man. On his own is that Winston tank to get 3.
Yeah, Zebasai up top uses the tac visor. As soon as Agilities goes in, he's trying to protect Chips a little bit. Chips goes out to the outside, and XQC pops Primal Rage, just goes right past Zebasai. So you can check it out here on instant replay. You see Chips there, he gets low. XQC forces him into the corner, then knocks back the tac visor from Zebasai. It's a beautiful use of Primal Rage.
Absolutely, of course, just the extra finishing touches on towards Swoosh there, but that was the Rock'em Sock'em Derby if I've ever seen it. Nicely done. Now Agility's up in the corner. The Transcendence now gives him a bit more confidence in coming forward. He knows he's got the healing to back him up. The pressure on towards Manager's extreme. Manager trying to retreat back to the safety of the Biotic field, but it doesn't last forever, unfortunately. Agilities now has found yet another play. You can see he's just setting himself up, dealing with those reinforcements, making sure Zebasai doesn't have any room to work. And he's done such a great job. 10 kills in a row for this man, or at least 10 kill involvements. He's been staying alive. He's been doing his job. Tavik had no chance. Agilities now starting to style on him a little bit more.
And with all the pressure that Agilities, Mangachu, and XQC are putting on, that's allowing Sure-for to just have so much space on the Widowmaker. He's putting down some damage, able to take out 2 players during that fight as Canada, they unlock point A, now moving towards point B. You'll have Agilities getting closer towards a Dragon Blade here. Zebasai switches over to the Lucio, probably give his team a little bit more speed to get back up closer towards the point. It'll be Agilities at 1 with the Dragon Blade, searching for more. Snillo with the recall, trying to get out of harm's way. Here's going to come a self-destruct out of Manhattan, able to get Joe Meister. That's a big kill.
The responding self-destruct doesn't claim anyone, but Mangachu doesn't mind. He just needs to get his suit back. The defense matrix is so crucial. You can see he used it to keep Rolf alive there, as he was getting pressured down by Manhattan. Mangachu fires up. Sure-for is now finding his shots. It's not a moment too soon either. Canada, at risk of being slowed down and gummed up here in this second phase, have come alive, and Sure-for now in its position. See that? Good control. Didn't fire at a reflecting Genji. That might have been his head on a platter. And now he'll wait for a head to present itself.
Canada, they have the Transcendence. They're going to try and lead the way with Manhattan using the defense matrix, but you see, you know, with the changes that come through, there's not enough for him to make it all the way to Sure-for. One nice play shot gets him really weak. It's going to force him to go back for healing. It'll be Mangachu taking out Swoosh. That's going to force Chips to use his Valkyrie.
Shorefall tries to get in a bit more of a safer angle here. Snillo was encroaching on his position. He does get away, but he denies himself key sightlines as well, and Tvik still going to chase him across the map. It's a global taunt locking in that Widowmaker, and Tvik could smell the cheese. He was hunting for it.
Agility is going to pop the Dragon Blade here. Yet again, though, Canada is still in this fight. Agility's with 2, Mangachu with 1. Agility is going to cut down to Vic. It's the Primal Rage plus the Dragon Blade keeps Canada in it. They unlock point B. Now for Sweden, you use your Valkyrie in that fight, use Dragon Blade to Vic will switch off, he'll go over to the 76. Use some ultimates there. Surefour now will switch off of the Widowmaker. He's done his job on that hero. Now he's going to try and put some more pressure here for Team Canada as they try and make the payload, turn that corner. He's going to use the Tracer to get up in the face of Sweden.
Historically, this is the part of the map where dive defenses can actually have a lot of success, but Sweden's running the Tracer 76 composition. Snillo opens up well, though. We still managed to find Rulf, who is quickly resurrected to keep back up on his feet. Tvik maybe goes in a little bit too deep here. Canada don't have to chase too far, but these kills, they're actually coming to them. Zebasai gets caught away from the rest of his team. Mangachu is just a cheeky little boot there. Gets some damage into Swoosh. We've said he doesn't prefer to play the Diva, but when he needs to, he makes it work.
And Agilities is going to have another blade, and Sweden is not going to have any of their support ults to deal with it. See, Agilities is forced, Chips all the way to the back. Second fight in a row that Agilities is able to get Chips early. Those are huge pickoffs for Canada. And now if you're Canada, you're going to have a Transcendence most likely. You're going to get close to a Primal Rage. You're going to have Self-Destruct. And you're going to have the Blade. And here it comes.
It's going to come in. I don't know what Sweden have done, but Agilities is trying to put him on a house arrest. They're going to be able to get out of their spawn at least and back onto the payload. But the Transcendence is there. So even if Sweden are present, the damage is just not going to stick for the time being. Swoosh is res back up, but Shorefall and Agilities have found their targets. Manhattan does get desuited. Defense Matrix not available. Micro Rockets aren't there either. Snillo trying to dash around the point, and Swoosh is desperately flailing with the Flying Fists of Fury, but it's not going to be enough. And the finish comes in the form of Canada getting across. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. That's the time remaining.
I thought it was fantastic play on offense from Canada. Just an overall great effort. Like, it wasn't really like kind of one player going off. I mean, Surefour I thought was great with the Widowmaker, able to put a lot of pressure on the Chips.
It didn't start well, though.
Yeah, it didn't start well. But then once they started to get going, there was nothing Sweden did to respond. It was really just started to all snowball out of control. I thought XQC had a very good Primal Rage use on, the first point, right? To force Chips all the way back. He killed Zebo. And then on the second point, just to keep it alive, he's with Mangachu and Agilities, who Agilities just seemed like was getting the better of Chips. I think that's really the key for me, is that Canada did a good job early in the fights, figuring out where Chips is and putting a ton of pressure on him.
Credit to their tank play as well. We saw Mangachu now pretty much sit on that Diva for the entirety of the map. He was very, very good at nullifying enemy tanks. This is Surefour as well, does connect with Chips there. Again, Chips pulls out the blaster. He tries to AD, to step left, right, and left, but interesting decision there. But again, this is now where Surefour has the space. You can see that no one is putting him under any degree of scrutiny whatsoever.
Chips in that first one, I know, just looking at some of the numbers, the deaths at 9. Right, and then for Joe Meister, it's kind of the two players we've been comparing is sitting at 4, right? So you had Canada do a nice job, protect Joe Meister. A lot of the pressure going on to Chips at the beginning of these games, especially from Agilities in Surefour. Sweden just needs to keep their mercy up.
Yeah, and you can see in that clip, the reason why Chips probably pulled out his pistol and tried to stand and deliver against Surefour is because the rest of his team had already engaged. They were on the other side of the shuttle. Chips is thinking, well, if I don't take this fight, it's going to be 10 seconds before I can get back to my team. I'm completely zoned out just by his presence enough.
There's no real other option for him.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you got to understand why he chooses to do that. Obviously, he doesn't think he's going to win, but his options are very limited. He might get some extra ult percentage if he gets some damage done. Anyway, Canada going to be defending now as well. And, Swoosh, careful there. Lives up to his name as he just misses the ledge. He's going to have to opt away from the dive. Perhaps that was all planned as well. There you go. Agilities is that kind of player, by the way. Historically, he's always been a big fan of using the Dragon Blade the moment that he gets it. Someone like Shadowburn's the opposite.
Yeah, Shadowburn much more passive with his blade usage. I mean, Agility's getting this blade so fast as well, already up to 60% towards it. So it's going to be the pressure coming in, though, from Sweden on the high ground. It'll be Surefour able to take out Snillo, so that's going to force Sweden to just wait a little bit. Now Zebazai playing the Widowmaker of his own. We'll see if he's able to find some kills onto Joe.
That was really nicely done there by Mangachu, jumping in to help XQC. I was just about to say this is why XQC doesn't love Winston right now, because it's so hard to deal with all this anti-tank damage. But Mangachu backed him up. Defense Matrix is there, but speaking of damage and anti-tank, It's going to be Zebasai to pick off Mangachu there from the backside. So again, this big, bulky, beefy front line from Sweden is creating space for Zebasai, and he's more than happy. You can see the confidence in him coming forward, setting up in fairly aggressive positioning now, and now Canada, a huge risk even peeking out.
And Agilities is going to pop a Blade here, and they're going to come back strong. It's going to be Attack Visor, Blade, and Valkyrie coming out from both sides here as Canada looks to come out on top in this fight. So you did have to use your Valkyrie, you did have to use the Blade and Attack Visor, but look at some of the ults you forced down from the other team as well.
Agilities, no Dragon Blade. Sure4, no Tactical Visor. Rolf is close to a Transcendence. That's definitely something to keep an eye on as this fight continues, because it will be needed to counter Tvik's Dragon Blade if he can land it in a bunch of enemies. Agility's taken low there as well. You can see the healing didn't come for a while. There was a window of opportunity, a vulnerability there for Agilities, but he's able to get back to safety. Now Sweden must assess their options.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a downside of Sweden's comp right now is that they don't have another sustain ult, right? I mean, you have chips with the Valkyrie, but if the Dragon Blade gets popped out, I mean, Agilities gets both of those dashes, you can get up to the sky, put a lot of pressure on it, chips. It'll be Mangachu, takes out Tvik here. It'll be Snillo not having the Pulse Bomb, already used it. It's going to be the res used on his Evo side to keep him in.
That was a massive 1v1 between Snillo and Sure4, by the way. We saw the opening of it. Snillo survived with a sliver of health, but XQC was sent there to deal with him. Could have been an opening. Sweden want to try and take that high ground, so this is a necessity. Snillo pressuring up on that ledge, walking up the stairs and trying to fight Sure4. It's a tough fight to take, especially when the 76 has the burst available in the form of the Helix Rocket and the Biotic Field. So you need to really time it well if you're going to be a Tracer to go the 1v1. Speaking of, Zebasai taken very low by a Helix Rocket. He's out of position, but no, it's a double support pancake. Swoosh lands on top of Rolf and Joe Meister and takes them down. No healing whatsoever available for Canada here. What a huge play made by the Winston player here on Sweden.
That is such a monster play there from Swoosh. He's able to get onto both supports. Joe Meister has his Valkyrie. It would have been huge if he's able to stay up. The XQC and Sure4 trying to keep this fight going. It's going to be Joe Meister popping the Valkyrie. You're going to bring XQC back into the fight. See if they can keep this one alive as Joe Meister getting pretty weak.
Yeah, Joe Meister's going to struggle to get away from this one. Swoosh was trained on him, laser focus. The Mercy's down, now up in the air. Primal Rage used the jump. First one wasn't used for damage, just to stay alive. Now to push Mangachu away. The payload's being pushed close. It's going to get the first checkpoint. Nicely done. Sweden used Swoosh to push their enemy away in the same way that XQC did in this situation yesterday.
Oh, and you have Rolf here. He's gonna fall, and he may have gotten that front spawn and just tried to run in there, just die right away instead of kind of falling
well, he
back.
died so early in that fight, remember? That was both supports going down. Sweden are on the run here. A little bit slower than Canada, though, it's safe to say. They are going to maintain that Widowmaker, so both teams respect the pressure that she can provide, especially here in the shuttle phase.
Well, we've seen Zebasai in the past on the Widowmaker on this map specifically have monster games. You can remember we did the DreamHack final last year. He was phenomenal on the Widowmaker in that series. Ran a triple DPS comp, pretty similar to what they're running right now. The great effect, it'll be the attack visor that comes in from Sure4, be the damage here, and just the pressure that T's putting on Zebasai from the high ground. Not gonna allow Canada around the corner.
Yeah, Zebasai has no sightlines now, he needs to relocate. This is slightly more dangerous for him as there's presence inside the shit. Oh, he doesn't actually land that shot, but now having him back away. And Sure4 does go down. That was a little bit close for Zebo. Not an easy angle, of course, to find.
Now, Matt, it's going to be Zebasai getting very weak, down to 5 HP. Mangachu putting the pressure on him. Agilities uses the blade, cuts down 2. Canada needed to invest resources in it to keep this one alive. Coming into the next fight, Sweden, they'll have their Dragon Blade, they'll have their Pulse Bomb. No support ults on the side for Canada left.
There's such a sense of certainty about Agilities hitting these big Dragon Blades to save his team in these fights.
Well, for Canada, you're going to have your Valkyrie here, so you will have one support ult. We'll see if they can keep Joe Meister alive, get both of those rests off. Sweden will have their Valkyrie as well. It'll be Rolf getting an early pick here on his Zebasai, and now I think, I was going to say, it's a question, do you want to invest that res? And they do.
You gotta go. Sweden are behind in time. They really need to make the move very quickly. Agilities vaults over the top, looks for Snillo, decides against it now. Forced back away. His opposite number, Tvik, is back on his feet after being res by chips, and now he's in his face. The reflects are there. Tvik manages to pick him up. I believe that was a reflect on the shuriken. It's hard to tell from there, but Sure4 now on the payload. Half HP. XQC being attended to right now, and then Rolf is going to get the res from Joe Meister. Zebo close, but trying to force away. The Pulse Bomb doesn't quite connect, and it's a very, very low swoosh. Finally taken down. This is looking bad for Sweden.
Yeah, and Rolf's going to use the Transcendence, and much earlier in the fight, Tvik uses his Dragon Blade, gets nothing for it, dies to the self-destruct of Mangachu. So they were trying to lead the way, Sweden, with the Valkyrie plus the Dragon Blade, really kind of keep Tvik up. Doesn't work out.
40 seconds left. This may well be the last fight coming up in a few moments, but in the meantime, so that pulse bomb from Shore 4 doesn't quite connect, but still manages to make that fight work in his favor. Good transcendence, most importantly, to help them clean up safely. What we missed was just a little bit of back and forth stuff. Canada have lost Rolf here, not Brits. Joe Marks has now fallen down. Here's the opportunity Sweden have been looking for. They're into their last fight here. Mangachu up towards the shuttle there, just perching for a moment, looking for a target. Again, he's on his own. He needs to try and stay alive. He's split for the rest of his team. Agilities needs to try and save Canada yet again. Another Dragon Blade. Can he do it one more time? No, he cannot. Snillo finds him. Mangachu desuited now, forced to back away. Just the Bunny Blaster plinking away, but it's going to take a lot more than that to stop Sweden. They're pushing forward now. They're going to get the checkpoint in overtime. Or will they? XQC throws himself in, hooked in, and that's going to be it. 1 minute 30 seconds. This is going to be a very close shave for the Swedes if they're going to finish, Matt.
Yeah, and Agilities uses the blade. He's able to get chips, just not enough players for Canada up to make a play on the point. Zebasai was forced to use that sound barrier, secure that for Sweden. Now for Sweden, you have your own Dragon Blade. You know both support ults were used on the side of Canada. We'll see how they decide to play this. Agilities getting very low, trying to back up towards his teammates, not going to make it out alive.
Yeah, a little bit aggressive. He thought he had Spic dead to right side, but the healing was very good from Sweden. Not much you can do about that. Can't really deflect lightning. That's not how it works, unfortunately. Some realism in this game, at least. And XQC, that's a quick brace of 3. Fantastic cleanup by him, bouncing on top of Stillo to finish things off. Shore 4 cut down though. Managing forced to back away again. The XQC damage is there. Canada are getting aggressive now, trying to force Sweden back inside their hiding holes. And they bought themselves a little bit of room to breathe.
It's massive for Canada that they survived that Dragon Blade without having to use either of their support ults. Because now you're going to have the Transcendence, you're going to have your Valkyrie. To Vic switches off of the Genji. He's going to go over to the 76. Here comes the Blade coming out from Agility. Slices through one, has to Vic run, and he can't hide. Slices through his second. 2 kills there for Agilities. It's going to force Manathin off the side of the map. As Canada does use their Valkyrie, they do use their Transcendence there. They did use a decent amount of ultimates. You have the Primal Rage to force players back. And Sherford does have that big pulse bomb.
5 seconds left to go. The last chance, the last stand for Sweden here to take this map back. Rolf's going to find Stillo, and that's a terrible start. It's diabolical and a nightmare for Sweden. Canada respond. They fire back across the Atlantic. It's going to be a map 5, and we couldn't be happier.
Canada will take us to another game 5. Agilities was tremendous on the Genji all match long. 55 kills, 29 final blows during that match.
Huge performance from him. This is great. Another 5 mapper. All we could have asked for and more. Let's head to a break, and then the final map. Only one of these 2 teams can advance to our World Cup Grand Final. Canada or Sweden? We'll find out after the break.
I will watch over you in my sights.
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
to be king in the north comes all down to this. Of course, that's not all these two teams are looking for, representing their countries here in the World Cup. They want the gold. They're only going to get there through one another. It's 2-2 here between Sweden and Canada. We're going to Oasis, Matt.
Going into this game 5, I think for Canada, you keep agilities on the Genji. He's been tremendous on it when we've seen him run it. He was very good on the Roadhog when he was on it as well, but his Genji play, I believe last map finishes with 17 Dragon Blade kills. Getting the Dragon Blade, it was on average of every minute and 3 seconds. Getting Dragon Blades literally every fight, putting so much pressure on Sweden.
That is significant. If you look at it in context of how slow these two teams were playing in a lot of those fights. Again, these two teams kind of like to approach each other with caution, identify each other's weaknesses, and then make informed decisions about how to best engage. But the Genji play has been absolutely sublime. We won't see it from Tvik this time, though. On Sweden, he's going to have a McCree, of course, with the Roadhog combined.
Well, obviously, you want the McCree for the side of Sweden to deal with the flankers of Canada. The issue is primarily we've seen Sherpor, you know, he's played a decent amount of Tracer during this series, but it's really been the 76 play. So now you have both flankers to deal with. It's going to be a little bit even harder for Tvik.
Shorefall might have been caught off towards the side, and Mangachu gets hooked in again. He's got to respect the hook. He can't do anything to stop it coming through, and it's going to open him up to a lot of free damage. He doesn't quite find Zebasai with the micro rockets, but forces him out of position. Canada now looking strong. They're right in the middle of the action here, and they're making Sweden have to work around the sides for their next meal.
I like the way Mangachu is playing the Diva here, getting a little bit aggressive, using those rockets to put down a ton of damage, just flying right through, getting to the back line. It'll be Joe Meister resing XQC. He will fall, though, to be a self-destruct. Used here for Canada to take the point.
Yeah, but Canada, yeah, Sweden stay off the point for a little bit too long there. Canada, I've got to say, Mangachu and that Diva zoning so well. Great area control by Canada to force Sweden out and away and allow the point to be taken. Madison, come back in on that Roadhog. It's going to be Shorefall here with a pulse bomb. So we're looking at this, going to see what he can make happen now. It's going to be backed up by the Transcendent, so we can get a little bit closer. Snillo found agilities. Madison peeks out from the middle area there and tries to go for a whole hog. Now it's time for Sweden to try and take positional control. Nice work from Joe Meister, though. Slips in there, gets himself a res on agilities, but is dropped.
Well, Joe Meister uses his Valkyrie here to bring agilities back into the fight. No, totally worth it. He takes out 4 with a Dragon Blade. I was like, oh, this is so risky. And then you bring agilities back, and oh, just cuts through Sweden. A huge play from agilities yet again.
As sure as the sun rises and sets each day, in Sweden, of course, at very different times, sometimes very briefly, agilities finds himself a huge amount of kills on that Dragon Blade. You can really count on this man to shine when it really matters. So good at identifying opportunities to make the best use of that ultimate ability. But now, the way has been paved, but there's more work to be done. Zebasai drops down and is rezzed immediately now by Chips. They need that extra healing available. They need the potential for another Transcendence in the coming fights. But XQC, look at that, it's going to be 2 Winstons fighting it out there. You can see XQC wants to find Swoosh, while Swoosh is trying to avoid him in general. Primal Rage, times out, he's taken down by Madison. A couple quick shots from the Roadhog here to lay Canada low.
Canada's going to be able to stall this out a little bit longer, though. They have their own Transcendence, keeping some players alive onto the point. Sherpor lands a big pulse bomb onto Manitin, and Sweden has not been able to get anything going. 85% and counting in favor of Canada. Canada will have another Dragon Blade. Zebasai will have that Transcendence for Sweden.
One more fight for Sweden now to try and take this back into their control. Again, that Transcendence, like you said, Matt, is going to be absolutely paramount. The use of it needs to be very clever. Chips high and coming forward now. Transcendence actually used just to start the fight, so Sweden know you can see them want to come forward. Shorefall just wants to take a sidebar for the moment here, and Agility, they're disengaging to prevent the healing from being effectively used. Agility goes in, he gets just one. Zebasai falls down. Looks like there's no res forthcoming. There it is though. Chips brings him back up on his feet. Still 2 healers available for Sweden, and Shorefall's close to a pulse bomb. Agilities is rezzed out by Joe Meister there. Fell during his Dragon Blade, and XQC joins him. Shorefall drops, and Tvik's going to be there now. You can see Joe just trying to stay alive over the action. It's getting pretty hot to handle for the Mercy down there. Eventually, he'll need to meet his fate and help the rest of his team. Agility stands tall. What a back and forth fight. Both Mercies going for multiple reses over it. Difficult to keep track of, but you can see that Canada are just a step ahead.
Canada 1 point away here in Game 5 from going to our gold medal match. I know we talked a lot about agilities on Team Canada, Mangachu, some of the Sherfor and the tanks, but there's somebody who I think has had an excellent series has been Rolf. How many fights have we seen with Rolf on the Zenyatta where he's able to get a pick early that forces the res out of Chips? He did it there
on Oasis. The first point, he did it on the the first map. He's had a very good series, has Rolf.
As strong as Mercy's Resurrected is in its current state, both teams have them. And getting those forced out early on is a very good omen and a very good way to begin a fight. Here we go though. 1-0 for Canada. Again, a win here will take them straight to that final one. Mangachu's up on that Pharaoh. This is Big Vic, was known for being a Pharaoh. He was the player that managed to save Rogue in the first APAC to actually beat Lunatic High, one of the only Western teams to do so in recorded Overwatch history. His Pharaoh's going to have to step up to the plate though, because this man is deadly.
Mangachu's put down some good damage. Chips forced to use the res on Manatin on the point. The res already out from Rolf though. It'll be Tavik getting the better of the Pharah bottles. As Tavik will take out Rolf as well. So now it looks like Sweden will take control of this point first. We'll see how Canada responds.
Clean opening here from Sweden. Again, the Pharaoh Mercy play is something that we will be scrutinizing for the duration of this map, because it is the centerpiece of both these teams' compositions. Twig will now just set up over on that platform, and again, Canada, we're going to have Mangachu coming in over the top there. He's kind of off camera, you can see him here, so he's very high up, very close to the skybox here. He just wants to get himself the 2v2, but Vic wins it out again! Gets that second rocket in! That's nasty. Mangachu's really been kept under the thumb here.
Yeah, and Manatin's going to take out Surefour and XQC, so the push falls apart for Canada. Tavik has been huge here for Sweden. It's going to force a change that comes through for Canada. You're going to have Mangachu switch over to the D.Va here. Surefour will move over to the 76. And the thing that's interesting here is, we've seen Joe Meister play a lot of the Mercy for this Canada roster. Rolf, most likely on the Zen, but because you want to run the Lucio here, you're going to have Joe run that. So a little bit of a change of roles here towards the end of the match.
Yeah, both teams doing that. Getting position so important on this map. Agility's Dragon Blade hasn't found key targets yet. Just slicing as he comes down. More so just adding damage to the pile here than actually finding a bunch of kills, but it's a good start. Manatin now is going to be reflected most of his whole hog. He's forced to turn away and look the other direction, and Agility's is more than happy to take the big target presented on that large back. It's going to be the rest of Sweden fighting over this point. What a turnaround in this particular stage. 67 to 0%. Snillo and Swoosh step up at the end of the fight here, and Mangachu forced to kiss the ring, switching off that Pharaoh to the D.Va now. He just needs to make sure he can help the rest of his team prevent this damage.
Yeah, and Chips was using the Valkyrie there to keep everybody healed up on the point. So Sweden will also have their sound barrier for this next fight. Canada, they have the luxury of having both support ults, but if they don't deal with Tavik, it probably won't matter.
Great to see Tavik on this Pharaoh now. It's going to be time to really shine here. Canada had to retake control, and the sound barrier was well placed because Agilities would have been taken down by that rocket from Tavik. He now tries to get out of the way, but Mangachu goes down. No chance to resuit. That's really got to add insult to injury here, and he's trying to get back in that suit, and he does. He resuits up. Joe Meister boots Manatin off the side. No, actually took him down with a boot kill. He does get res though, so lucky he wasn't killed environmentally. Dragon Bait from Agilities, 1 and 2, looking for more, and he's found it. Manatin goes down. That's the third for Agilities once again, with the abilities keeping Canada up alive in this particular round. They can take it from here. I've seen crazier things, Matt.
Will be the point going over to Canada. It's a large mountain to climb, though. They find themselves down 99 to 0. Now they get control of the point. You had to use all your ultimates in that previous fight to win it. Sweden, you'll be close to a Valkyrie. You have a whole hog. You have a pulse bomb. You're going to get a rocket barrage. They have all the tools to make this happen.
Yeah, it's crunch time for Canada now. They need to be able to just deal with the flow of these ultimates coming towards them. XQC, you ain't even going to get to touch the ground, son. May as well head back to the moon at this rate. Manatin's dealt with that key tank on the side of Canada, but that's not the whole job done yet. Looking for another hook target. They get the high ground. Sweden can't contest the point from that bridge. They will need to drop down eventually, but Snillo has been doing all the work so far. The hook there for Manatin was largely just a formality and not even required. Sweden looks like they're going to take it back. The barrage from Tavik deals with Mangachu, and that should be job done. Point going to be swung back in favor. XQC trying to camouflage himself amongst the foliage. Doesn't quite work out there, and it will be flipped for Sweden. Now overtime, a chance, an attempt. Joe Meister running towards the point. It's like chariots of fire, but it's not enough.
There was nothing really Canada could do there towards the end. There were so many ultimates up for Sweden. They just roll on in, take the point with relative ease. So now we will have 1 point to decide it all. These teams are so evenly matched. Sweden, a lot of people thought last year they were going to be a team that made the finals. Can they do it this year?
So many people had this match pegged as not nearly being as close as it was. Yeah. A lot of people had extreme faith in Sweden because their performance over their opponents, the UK, was dominant. However, Canada's over Australia was not. They had to reverse sweep to get themselves here. So people's expectations were perhaps skewed by those results, and a good amount of direct hits there for Tvik, 20%, spreading a lot of that damage over, but more importantly, he was the dominant Pharah.
And Canada's going to bring the Pharah Mercy out yet again. It'll be Agility's running the Pharah here. And Sweden really has nothing to deal with it. I mean, they have the Junkrat and they have Tracer. It's going to be Agility's just putting down a ton of free damage.
This was the exact map, by the way, in the tiebreaker that Canada managed to take Russia down on to get themselves into the finals in Poland. It was this map where Canada had Mangachu on Pharah, but Agility's now is stepping up to the plate. They have that level of flexibility. Let's see if it works, because Tvik has been taking a chunk out of Canada with this Junkrat.
And what do you do? I mean, you see Manatyn looking up at the sky at Agility's. Agility's able to take out Chips. Joe Meister brings XQC back into the fight. Agility's just getting so much free damage down from up above. It'll be Canada taking the point.
XQC's map earlier on was phenomenal. That Gibraltar performance from him was mercurial. Right now, he has second place, I think, in terms of those eliminations. So he's getting involved in these fights, but it's Agility's this time. He's the man of the moment. This map has been incredible from him. 30 eliminations, almost double the next person behind him.
Tvik is going to switch off of the Junkrat right away. He knows he needs to deal with Agility. It's not a lot of time. You know, you stay one more life on the Junkrat, it doesn't work. You're going to be behind the 8-ball for Sweden. Surefour trying to put pressure behind enemy lines. It's going to be a rocket barrage trying to locate Chips. Not able to get him.
There's a respect here from Tvik, switching over towards the McCree to try and deal with Agility's, and the hit scan pressure seems to work out. Agility's actually kills himself there. The rocket explodes back in his face, but the backfiring ends there. The rest of the job for Canada seems to be done well. It's an artisan's tapestry. Now the last few strokes are being applied. Surefour making sure he rubs it in. And Sweden know who Daddy really is.
Canada used their Valkyrie though. You'll have a Transcendence. For Sweden, you're going to have your own Valkyrie, you're going to have a grab, you're going to have a Pulse Bomb. Let's see if they can land that big bang combo. You get Manatyn to drop a big fat grab, you get Snow to get from behind, land a Pulse Bomb. It's Agility's though, still on the far.
Good flash.
Good flash there from Tvik. Takes out Surefour, not in a position he can get a res off. There's going to be the grab. The Pulse Bomb comes through as well.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem to have a huge impact though. Snillo tries to stick it inside the Graviton Surge, but the job seems to already have been done. The extra damage maybe wasn't needed. Tvik now having a chance to run Riot here. He's going to get pressured down by Agility's. Whoa, what a match! But Zebasai was on the low ground, picks him off with a few more orbs, and Sweden get back in control. 80% to Canada. It's a huge mountain to climb.
If you're Canada, I was going to say, if you're Canada, do you stay on the far? I was going to say, I would have loved to see him bring out the Genji yet again. When Tvik went over to the McCree, what did they do the last time? They put a ton of pressure on him with Surefour on the Tracer, Agility's on the Genji, and it worked out quite well.
Oh, that's nasty. Agility's couldn't do much about that. He found Snillo though as well. Managed to find him with that headshot, so it's a 1-for-1. Good flash. Agility is down. That's the headshot we were looking for. Tvik manages to work it out. Now the pressure forward. Transcendence being used for Sweden to get in position and force Canada away. They're not going to allow them to walk through the open gate this time, and Rolf better respect the hit scan pressure. Sweden want to try and chase down, and they do. But maybe not too far for now. There's too much at stake.
For Sweden, you're going to have a Deadeye, you're going to have Pulse Bomb, most likely another grab for this next fight. The scary part is you have no support ults, you're nowhere close. Chips 5 to Valkyrie. Zebasai 13 building up towards Transcendence.
It's a window opportunity.
Canada is going to have a huge window here. You're going to have your Valkyrie, you're going to get very close to a Dragon Blade, and you're going to have your Transcendence.
Both tanks jump in, the Graviton response from Sweden here. The entirety of Canada has been tied together, but only one falls. The Deadeye only connects with Surefour. Mangachu did actually get desuited in the progress, and Joe Meister gets the res on towards Surefour to keep him back fighting. Agility's down. These DPSs for Canada are struggling to stay alive, but Agility's gets a second chance, a stay of execution, another bite of the apple, and he meant to make it work, and he does. He's found Chips after getting res. Surefour's there on towards Tvik now. Swatch getting burst down very quickly. Needs to get back towards the rest of his team, and the Transcendence now is being delivered from Sweden. They need the healing, and now almost a half-time break in this fight as Surefour finds Zebasai after he comes out of that Transcendence. Rolf is getting closer to his. He needs a little bit more, though. Surefour's there. 3 kills for Surefour. It's 91% to 80 in Canada. Switch it back. This is getting very tight.
Canada has the self-destruct. They have a Pulse Bomb here. Agility's, the way he's been building up towards a Dragon Blade, most likely gets it as well. Sweden, no support ults, no attack visor here. They have nothing. It's just the Pulse Bomb. Last chance here.
Chance, saloon for Sweden to come back. Canada are so close. It's 99%. When you know it's going to be Zebasai getting rezzed up, but Surefour found the pick. Oh! Zebasai gets rezzed only to die again. Great pulse from Surefour. He stays alive. Tvik manages to get rid of Agilities, but it's going to take more than that. Snillo is out of the picture. Manatyn gets desuited and taken out. Overtime is ticking down. Sweden, where are they?
goes clutch. You see it on their faces. That series took so much out of them. Tremendous performance as Canada, they'll find themselves in the gold medal match. Agilities was nuts all series long.
That's it for Sweden. They're out. Canada are going to advance. We've got more to talk about after the break when we meet with the desk. For now, though, we'll see you in a bit.
Mercy hurt, Mercy won, Mercy dead.
Soldier!
What's rest? Okay. It's just Tracer dead. Let's go! One more round! One more round! Come on, just Agilities. He's inside! He's inside!
BlizzCon 2017 is brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
Congratulations to the one true Kings of the North. They are going to the finals. Unbelievable. And I think I speak for every single American citizen in here that we have adopted Canada to then go on and win the Overwatch World Cup as our brethren of North America. There we go. North America. We will go ahead and take that. Jokes aside, though, what a game. Went the distance. James, I'm going to start with you, my friend, because there were some crazy moments in that game.
I mean, there were different brilliance of moments coming out from everyone on the side of Team Canada. We saw Joe Meister being able to play a lot better because he had the support from the rest of his team, Agilities in particular with that Roadhog early on. And then later, it became the Agilities and Surefour show.
I think what was very interesting to me was for Canada, the tank gameplay wasn't actually as lopsided as you might have thought, where you take a look at how Canada play with that. XQC had moments of pure dominance, particularly on Gibraltar, but what strikes out to me is how Sweden struggled to dominate with Swoosh and Manitin, where Swoosh oftentimes was a little bit far out, got picked off quite heavily. And then you had Manitin, where Manitin went silent on Hog to some extent. And because of that, I think you saw Agility suddenly have a lot more room to play with. And of course, you take a look at the stats here for Agilities, it tells the tale.
I mean, what was crazy about that, we just saw it, was Agilities on the Pharah. Had you told me, and you said this, but it made so much sense, and I'm stealing it from you, buddy. Had you told me that Agilities would have played the Pharah and not Mangachu, I would have been like, you're crazy. That's what Mangachu does. But a credit to Mangachu for filling the roles where necessary. Although he did play Pharah, he didn't have the performance that he would have liked to have had on it. His Diva play, though, pretty solid. It's what it was, you know, good for them to be able to take advantage of there. Not necessarily something that you go home with, right? But it was enough at that point to get them over the finish line. That being said, ZP, it's whether or not it's France or South Korea, what are some of the things that Canada needs to button up going into that final matchup?
Well, things they need to button up for sure is definitely, I think, how they're running their compositions at the beginning was still somewhat of a good look for them. I do think if Agilities can play Genji the way he was playing there, run more of that. But otherwise, just note that they did have difficulty keeping Joe alive at points, where it's still somewhat of a rough area for them. Protect that, and let Surefour run defensive Tracer more, because that is one of the better performances we've seen from a Tracer in that situation, where I would throw it back to Hanamura, right? Where even though Canada did not win Hanamura, you had 4 solid minutes of Surefour almost single-handedly disrupting the Sweden offense. And from there on out, it felt like there were moments of brilliance from Surefour, whether it be on Tracer, Widowmaker after a little bit of a rough start. He was playing great, so put Surefour in situations to succeed.
You basically just want more Surefour, right?
Yeah, I'm sure of it.
I totally agree. But you know what I want more of? It's T-Mobile. That's right. I went there. I did it. No shame. That being said, guys, we want to get out there and vote. If you're in the Twitch chat, you can use !T-Mobile MVP in the battle tag of the player that you're rooting for to be the MVP on Twitter. It's the same thing there as well. It's going to be #T-Mobile MVP and the battle tag of the player there as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard now and see if anything has changed. It hasn't. Okay, well that's that.
Well, I was back in the running, by the way. So I went onto Reddit, and apparently, so when you put in the battle tag, they forgot that Flower's name actually has a 0 in it. So they were putting in the wrong vote. So already Flowers at 17% after that, already catching up to XQC.
You know what though? XQC for the vote, it makes he's been playing really well, and they're in the finals. So you know that's not bad, right?
I mean, it looks like it's going to be shaping up to South Korea versus Canada at this point.
Yeah.
XQC versus Flower. We'll see who comes out on top.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch, my friend, because that being said, we have a great matchup coming up next. The final game to decide who will go to the grand finals. This is it. It all comes down to this for France, but for South Korea, it's an opportunity for them to continue to exercise their dominance. Don't go anywhere. France versus South Korea coming at you live after this.